Chapter 17:30. After that, Su Won'er patted Wang Shangwu's shoulder lightly. She tilted her head and said, "Don't worry. Brother Su must be waiting for me. Maybe he has already returned home. Let's go. Let's go back and see Grandpa first." Su Won'er brushed her hair away from her forehead and said softly, "I wonder if Brother Su, he has been well all these years? Did you try to be brave? Did you miss Wana?" Raising his head slightly, Wang Shangwu curled his lips and said softly, I'm going home to see my parents too." Turning around, the two of them walked into the barbaric demon forest. "Brother Shangwu, this time when we go through the barbaric demon forest and return to Barbarian City, we have to look carefully again to see if there are any traces left behind by Brother Su Yi. If Brother Su Yi is not in the Su family, we have to hurry up and find Brother Su Yi's whereabouts." As they walked, Su Won'er whispered softly to Wang Shangwu behind her. Wang Shangwu nodded lightly, but his brows were tightly knitted. Looking at the beautiful figure in front of him, Wang Shangwu seemed to have a lot of things to say to Su Won'er. However, he opened his mouth and did not make a sound. He clenched his fists and sighed softly in his heart. "From now on, you may not be able to leave the Cloud Immortal sect. Won'er, regardless of whether we can find Su Yi this time, at least you can return to the Su family and see Master Su. That is the greatest consolation I can give you for risking my life to bring you out." After Barbarian City, the two of them were taken away by the mysterious old woman had not returned to Barbarian City for a long time. During this time, Wang Shangwu had tried to bring the homesick Su Won'er back several times, but it had all ended in failure. This might be the last time Su Won'er returned to Barbarian City. Looking at the distant barbaric demon forest, Wang Shangwu's eyes instantly flashed with a trace of determination and anticipation. He rubbed his palms together and followed closely behind Su Won'er. He stared at Su Won'er, who was constantly muttering in front of him, and smiled foolishly. On the other side of the barbarian demon forest, more than a dozen young men and women in casual clothes were galloping through the forest on tall barbarian demon beast mounts. The savage beasts that were originally hiding in the dark were all scared away by this monstrous aura. Only the scarred mercenary and the rest were left. In the distance, the roars of beasts could be heard, and the aura of demonic beasts soared to the sky, providing an excellent cover for the ambushing mercenaries. "Boss, they're getting closer. Should we capture them?" The shifty-eyed man behind him waved the spear in his hand and said in a sharp voice, "Boss, hurry up. They're running away. Charge!" Just as the sect disciples stepped past, more than a dozen people rushed out like a whirlwind. They shot their burning gazes at the people riding on the tall barbarian demon beast mounts, and they muttered in the unique slang of the barbarian demon forest. The people riding on the tall barbarian demon beast mounts were in no hurry. They looked coldly at the mercenaries that charged over, and the corners of their mouths suddenly curled into a few disdainful arcs. The scarred mercenary waved the sledgehammer in his hand and said fiercely, "I actually found a treasure. Leave everything behind." A 6th-level Origin Void stage martial artist over 40 years old isn't weak in this trashy place. Unfortunately, he's too old and is still a piece of trash. The man in the lead had an awe-inspiring appearance. He wore a robe with golden patterns, and his tiger-like eyes carried a wisp of dignity. His strength at the 8th level of the Origin Void stage filled the forest with a bang. 8th level of the Origin Void stage. The scarred mercenary carried a trace of panic, and his throat suddenly rolled. "Who the hell are you?" The man behind him that threatened to attack narrowed his eyes, and he noticed that these young men and women all had extremely high cultivations. Such a lineup at such a young age could only be possessed by people from large sections. Suddenly, laughter that was like a silver bell resounded out from the tall barbarian demon beast mount, and a rather valiant woman played with her black hair as she spoke in disdain. "Brother Shanamo, Su, you didn't find a lousy place like Barbarian City, but we did find a group of nobodies." Behind her was a man that held a sledgehammer, and he swung the sledgehammer vigorously as he said gloomily, "Competing with my holy mountain Linshio with a sledgehammer. Do you want to die?" "What? Holy Mountain? You're from the Holy Mountain?" After the scarred mercenary finished listening to Lin Xiao, he was even suffused with a terrifying coldness from head to toe. The mercenaries that didn't enter Barbarian City more than a few times a year instantly had evil intentions when they saw Shen and Mo and the others wearing casual clothes. They actually didn't know that the people that came for Barbarian City were disciples of the Holy Mountain, and they instantly fell into the arms of the people behind them like soft mud. They hastily stood up and didn't have time to reply before turning around and giving the order to flee. Want to run? All of you stay behind. A cold light flashed within Shenmo's eyes. Instantly, a few golden sword lights flashed through the sky, and instantly, a rain of blood swirled in the air, and severed limbs that covered the sky started to scatter all over the ground. Actually, the scarred mercenary with his 6th-level void origin stage cultivation might not be instantly killed by Shun and Mo. But the Holy Mountain's reputation was like a mountain that tightly pressed down on everyone's hearts, and their hearts and souls had already collapsed before they even made a move. Senior brother, Shinamo, why did you make it so badly mangled? This place was dirty to begin with. Lu Shuang revealed a disdainful expression as she looked at the pieces of flesh on the ground and patted off the pieces of flesh on her body. Shun Mo shook his hand, and the corners of his mouth curled into a terrifying smile. His neck twisted and emitted cracking sounds as he said gloomily, "We've already been in Barbarian City for over 20 days, and there's not the slightest bit of news about the Sioux clan. Did the Sioux clan evaporate overnight? Truly hateful. Yeah, the Sioux clan's residence is completely empty, and there's only an old man standing guard there. I originally wanted to go over and burn the Sioux clan's residence down today to vent my anger." Lu Shuang fiercely looked back as she touched the faint trace of blood on her face, and an extremely dense killing intent condensed in her eyes. "And that green-clothed woman who ruined my face, I'll definitely cut her into 1,000 pieces." Lu Shuang fiercely said. She stared at the distant barbarian city that was still tranquil. Back then, when Su Yi massacred the 100 Herb Academy, she and all the Academy's disciples almost lost their lives in the 100 Herb Mountain. This blood feud had always been remembered in the hearts of Lu Shuang, and the others. "When we return tonight, we'll burn the Su clan. If we can't find Su Yi, the first Holy Sun will definitely blame us." Lin Xiao's face was also solemn as he fiercely said, "All of you, stop talking nonsense and hurry up and search. We've followed the first Holy Sun, and the first Holy Sun has given us such an important mission. The Heavenly Wind's ranking is imminent, and there's still no clear winner between him and the 5th Holy Sun. If we can deliver Su Yi's head to him at this time, they would truly be a unique merit." "Fatty, you really know how to talk. The Sioux clan's people in Barbarian City have already disappeared, so what's the point of searching blindly in Barbarian City? I also don't know what Elder Qin has sent us to this forest to look for." Lu Shuang put her hands on her hips as she furrowed her brows and said unhappily. Shun Mo waved his hand as his sword-like eyebrows furrowed. He was rather impatient as he said indifferently, "It's said that there's a huge secret in Barbarian City that has been guarded for generations. This was secretly told to Elder Qin by a few other local powers. Elder Qin wants to find it as soon as possible so that the first Holy Sun can quickly raise his strength to fight against Heavenly Wind. This will also make up for the sin of not finding Su Yi." Chapter 1731. So that's how it is. All the Holy Mountain disciples behind him suddenly understood. The people behind him were also brought to the Holy Mountain by the Xianyuan Emperor's grandson at that time to ask for forgiveness and treat their injuries. After the 100 Herbs incident, they all belonged to the Great Holy Sun. This time, they were sent by the Great Holy Sun to find Su Yi's traces. At the mention of Su Yi, everyone gnashed their teeth. So far, the different degrees of injuries on their bodies were all related to Su Yi. I wanted to catch the Su family and spread the news to lure Su Yi here so that I could kill him in one fell swoop. Unfortunately, the Su family disappeared. Now I can only settle for the second best. I hope I can find that treasure." Shin-Emo snorted softly. He was holding the reins of the barbaric demon beast in his hand. Suddenly, his eyes became sharp as he stared at two very faint figures in the forest. Who is it? Get out here. Hey! Suddenly, a woman in a lavender dress slowly walked out of the forest. It was Sue Warner who came from the other side. Her face was covered by a veil, and a fragrant wind immediately filled the entire forest. Her fragrant cheeks were whiter than snow, and her narrow shoulders set off an extremely seductive collarbone. Suddenly, the forest was filled with swallowing sounds as everyone's eyes widened. Behind her, the fat Wang Shangwu slowly walked out. After more than a year, Wang Shangwu was also much stronger than before. The expression on his face was like a tiger's, and his pair of eyes were filled with boundless killing intent. His hands were constantly emitting extremely terrifying sounds of bones cracking. The young girl's smile was exquisite, and her bright eyes and snow-white lips carried a peerless charm. She was Sue Warner. Her face was ashen, and she ignored the stunned gazes around her and stared straight at Shin-Emo, who had always boasted of being romantic and elegant, was also intoxicated for a moment. His mouth was wide open, and his breathing began to quicken. The group of Holy Mountain disciples behind him didn't care about their image. Their eyes were extremely hot, as if they would swallow Sue Warner in the next second. Who are you? How dare you eavesdrop on the Holy Mountain? Seeing this, Lu Shuang touched the scar on her face. Her heart was filled with resentment and jealousy as she scolded coldly. Sue Warner raised her eyelashes slightly and swept her gaze across everyone present. She opened her red lips slightly, and a trace of coldness flashed through her soft voice. Sacred Mountain? That's it. Wang Shangwu waved his fist with a cold expression and whispered to Sue Warner. Sure enough, the Sacred Mountain is no good. In an instant, the savage beast roared, and its huge iron hooves drew a huge gully on the ground. Say that again. Lu Shuang pulled her hand out from her waist and pointed the azure whip at Sue Warner and Wang Shangwu. Where did this little fairy come from? How dare you ignore the existence of a sacred mountain? Pa. Shin-Emo held the sword in his right hand and gently pressed down Lu Shuang's whip with a flattering expression. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile, thinking that he was being very polite. Miss Fairy, I can tell at a glance that you are not a local. We are from the Sacred Mountain, one of the one mountain, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 4 groups. We didn't know that you would come. There must be some misunderstanding that annoyed you. Please forgive us. The corner of Wang Shangwu's mouth lifted slightly. His breath was heavy as he whispered, This guy looks like a beast with a human face at first glance. He's gentle and incomparably hypocritical. Warner, don't be fooled. Sue Warner crossed her hands. Her expression was cold as she took a step forward and waved her long sleeves. I heard that you just wanted to burn down the Sue family and capture Sue E. Shin-Emo and the disciples of the Sacred Mountain suddenly felt a trace of panic in their hearts. Shin-Emo narrowed his eyes and laughed dryly. Could it be that you know Sue E? Please answer my question. Sue Warner's little face was cold. She had always been gentle, but at this moment she showed an extremely strong killing intent. An extremely heavy pressure instantly pressed down on everyone's heart like a storm. The barbaric beast's fierce eyes flickered as it exhaled a scorching breath from its nose. Its figure gradually retreated. Shin-Emo and the others' faces changed drastically. A cold light flashed in Lu Shuang's eyes. She pointed her long whip, and a golden yuan chi suddenly appeared in her body. Together with the blue long whip, 2 rays of light, one golden and one yellow, instantly shot towards Sue Warner like a giant snake. Stop being long-winded. Anyone related to Sue E must die. Bang! Just as it was about to rush to Sue Warner's side, countless whip shadows spun in her pupils. The airflow in the air suddenly stopped in front of Sue Warner's eyes. Wang Shangwu crossed his arms behind him as if he was watching a show. He looked at the people of the Sacred Mountain with a slightly pitiful gaze. Lu Shuang's attack was stopped in an instant. Her pretty face was full of horror. Boom! Subsequently, The long whip bounced back rapidly as if it was hit by a huge force. The huge force threw Lu Shuang off the barbaric beast. Crack! The sound of bones cracking resounded in the forest. Lu Shuang lost consciousness. Shen Mo and Lin Xiu gasped at the same time. The barbaric beast under them also kept retreating. Origin Emperor Realm Expert. How is this possible? Shen Mo's eyes suddenly widened. His hands that were holding the reins started to sweat slightly. Everyone who was drooling over her beauty a moment ago retracted their greedy gazes. Their eyes drifted, hoping that Su Won'er wouldn't notice them. Answer my question. Su Won'er repeated her question again. Her voice was low and soft. The coldness in her soft voice was enough to shock everyone's soul. Gulp! Shen Mo's throat rolled rapidly. He laughed awkwardly and said, Fairy lady, you are really something. You have reached the Origin Emperor realm at such a young age. I'm impressed. However, if it's that bastard Su, it's a different story. Now, everyone in the barbarian city is from the Sacred Mountain. They all have a blood feud with Su. Do you think you can afford to offend the Sacred Mountain? Immediately, Wang Shanwu looked at Su Won'er urgently. Su Won'er's face was pale. She bit her lips slightly. Her eyes were as cold as ice. She looked at everyone present coldly and said, Brother Su, has a grudge with all of you. It must be because of your bad intentions that angered him. I won't allow you to talk about him like that. Since Brother Su, he doesn't like all of you, then all of you should disappear. She waved her hand gently. Her forearm that was as white as snow stretched out and formed a green net out of thin air. It was filled with intense poison. It was glowing faintly. Obviously, it was highly toxic. Before anyone could react, a huge net came down from the sky and covered everyone's heads. Green wisteria, immortal binding net. Chila. Hundreds and thousands of green vines intertwined. A shocking aura instantly covered the sky and covered everyone present, including the barbarian demonic beasts. Chi-Chi. At the same time, a shocking aura erupted from Su Won'er's eyes like a volcano. Her hair flew up high behind her. Shen Mo, Lin Xiu, and the other souls were already shaken as they looked at the people who were tightly bound. The poison that flowed down from the vines was extremely corrosive. When it came into contact with the skin, it made a sizzling sound. Instantly, heart-wrenching screams filled the forest. Chapter 1732. Wang Shangwu sneered. His huge body moved forward and pointed at the mangled limbs on the ground as he said, So ruthless. Are all the people of the Holy Mountain like this? I'll let you have a taste of your own flesh and blood. What was even more pitiful were the dozens of Gale demonic wolves. Due to the pain, they kept spitting out flames and were tied together with Shen Mo and the others in the green net. Their huge bodies directly pressed on the disciples of the Holy Mountain. Not only were they mangled, but there was also the heart-wrenching sound of broken bones. Which, I won't let you go. The elders of the Holy Mountain will be here soon. You can't run away. My face. Lu Shuang covered her pretty face. A drop of venom happened to drip on the wound that had not yet healed. A stream of red blood flowed down instantly. Give them a quick death. We have to hurry back to the barbarian city. If this goes on, the barbarian city will be in danger. I don't know how the Su family is doing. Wang Shangwu's face was gloomy. He looked at Shen Mo and the others who were in pain without a trace of sympathy on his face. Early on, when the Holy Mountain was being tested, he had heard Su Yi mention how dark the Holy Mountain was. And after returning from the Cloud Immortal sect, he sneered at the Holy Mountain and did not take it seriously at all. Su Won'er's eyes were cold. She looked indifferently at the people of the Holy Mountain on the ground and raised her hand again with a fierce, primordial chi pressure. At this moment, a golden light broke through the sky and flew toward them. Presumptuous! How dare you kill the disciples of the Holy Mountain? You don't want to live anymore. Boom! Out of nowhere, a golden light was dazzling. The space fluctuated violently, and a long golden stripe was aimed at the green vine, immortal binding net. In an instant, A towering pressure rose in the forest, and the surrounding space collapsed inch by inch. The violent shock wave exploded instantly. Sue stretched out her hand and retreated quickly, the corners of her eyes twitching slightly. Bang! The cracking sound between heaven and earth dissipated with the explosion of the golden and green colors. Smoke and dust filled the sky. More than a dozen disciples of the holy mountain wailed in pain in the loud noise. Their flesh and blood burst open, and it was terrifying. In front of Shun-Mo and the others, an aged figure appeared from within. The aura around his body was incomparably vigorous. He was dressed in a golden python robe, and his long hair was combed neatly behind his back. He stood with his hands behind his back, and a pressure that soared into the sky instantly suppressed the scene. Who is it that dares to harm a disciple of the sacred mountain? Elder Qin, save us! Shun-Mo and the rest were covered in dust and grime, covering the bleeding wounds all over their bodies as they cried out nonstop. It turned out that the person who'd come was the personal elder of the great holy sun, Yuchi Changfeng, Elder Qin. This time, it was precisely he who'd led the group to search for Su Yi's traces. Elder Qin narrowed his eyes and snorted with a cold glint in his eyes. What a vicious move! Su Wanner, who had retreated into the forest, did not change her expression. She clenched her fists tightly and said softly, "What did you do to the Su family?" On top of an extremely high cliff, the strong wind was biting cold. A pitch-black crack appeared out of thin air, and a woman dressed in a moon-white chiffon landed gracefully. It was Duanmu Xiaoman, who'd come from the heavenly drive river. Breathing in the primordial fresh air, Duanmu Xiaoman's brows were tightly knitted. The great forest below had a panoramic view, and the commotion that had just appeared was instantly heard by Duanmu Xiaoman. Her delicate brows slightly knitted, and her cold eyes looked at the commotion below. She instantly snorted coldly. The holy king's aura of the sacred mountain? She lightly stepped forward with the tip of her foot, and her robe flew up. Like a bubble, her figure flashed out like lightning and instantly arrived in the forest. She retracted her aura and coldly looked at the changes below. Elder Qin and the others present did not discover the absolute expert hiding in the forest. With a shake of his robe, two withered hands stretched out, and the flickering light on his fingertips was incomparably overbearing. Su, he has a blood feud with the sacred mountain. The Su family should be killed. I'm an elder of the sacred mountain's holy sun. Little girl, how dare you? Su Yi. When Duanmu Xiaoman heard Su Yi's name, she instantly focused and listened attentively. Originally, after saying this sentence, the corner of Elder Qin's mouth lifted slightly, and he looked at Su Wanner with absolute contempt. He thought that Su Wanner would be scared out of her wits and kneeled down to beg for mercy. Unexpectedly, Su Wanner quietly walked out of the forest. Her small face was covered with frost, and the golden flames in her eyes began to dance. An unparalleled pressure instantly spread out behind her. Chi-Chi. The temperature in the forest began to rise, and a strong killing intent crazily emerged from Su Wanner's small body. Wanner, can you beat him? When Wang Shangwu saw that Su Wanner was about to go all out, his heart suddenly tightened, and large beads of sweat flowed down from his forehead. Su Wanner bit her red lips, and her hands formed a seal. The light in her eyes began to shoot out, and mysterious runes began to linger behind Su Wanner. In a split second, the light was resplendent, and Su Wanner fiercely stared at Elder Qin like a goddess. Even if I can't beat him, I still have to fight. Does this girl know Su Yi? Duanmu Xiaoman, who was standing in the air with her hands crossed, lightly tapped her palms. At such a young age, she actually has such pressure. She's definitely not someone who can be nurtured by a sect like the Sacred Mountain. Could it be? Then, she leaned down slightly to let herself see more clearly. As long as it's not good to Su Yi and the Su family, they must disappear from this world. Su Yi Gij is the best person. You. Elder Qin did not expect that Su Wanner would actually want to fight to the death. He clenched his teeth and a golden light suddenly rose from his hands. Ho! The surrounding space began to fluctuate rapidly, and endless golden shadows began to rise behind Elder Chin. A huge amount of energy began to rise from his palms. Bang! Almost at the same time, Elder Chin roared and pushed his palms horizontally. In an instant, countless golden light seals quickly gathered in the sky and directly rushed towards Su Wan'er. Wang Shangwu exclaimed, "Not good. Want a Mimi, don't." As soon as his voice fell, the space above Su Wan'er's head began to tremble. The dragon and phoenix shadows behind her overlapped, and a calm space crack suddenly appeared from the huge palm print. The powerful chi wave directly pushed Wang Shangwu out of the forest. He spat out blood, and a huge crack appeared in the middle of the giant tree. Sui Gij is not here. I have to protect the Su family. Protect the Su family. Su Wan'er shouted loudly as she faced the impact of the golden light that soared into the sky. A bang sound was heard, and a shattering sound was quickly produced in the space. The palm print swept out, and two violent forces appeared out of nowhere. The entire barbaric demon forest instantly produced a loud sound that could shatter heaven and earth. Countless cracks spread out from the ground, and Shun Mo and the others had long been suppressed by this valiant pressure to the point that they were unconscious. Amidst the resplendent radiance, a figure floated out like a kite with a broken string. His entire body was covered in ice crystals, and he had lost his vitality. It was unknown whether Elder Chin was dead or alive. Looking at Su Wan'er again, there was already a beautiful moon-white figure standing beside her. It was Duanmu Xiaoman. Su Wan'er's dispirited aura spread out from her body. She turned her head and glanced at Duanmu Xiaoman, and her pupils slightly fluctuated. Sister, deity, deity, deity. PFFF. The aura dissipated, and Su Wan'er fell into Duanmu Xiaoman's arms like a tender willow. Her towering mountain peaks undulated up and down. Gently patting Su Wan'er's beautiful face, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes dimmed, and she sighed softly. Are all the people that Su knows so overconfident? Chapter 1733. The corner of Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes moved slightly as she coldly looked at the frozen Elder Chin and the unconscious people of the Holy Mountain. With a casual flip of her jade-like hand, incomparably cold ice crystals wantonly flew out, and the sound of ice freezing resounded unceasingly. Boom! Immediately, a large area of ice-blue space was formed, and everyone was sealed in ice. The air was filled with extreme coldness. Suddenly, everything in the forest turned into a world of ice and snow. Along with a light clench of her hand, Elder Chin and Shun Mo unknowingly turned into ice crystals that scattered all over the sky. And at this time, the sound of something falling into the underbrush came from afar. Wang Shangwu quietly poked his head out from the underbrush. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were cold, like an ice lotus on a high mountain, holy and elegant. You and this little girl are together? Wang Shangwu frantically nodded. Just now, Duanmu Xiaoman's methods were all seen by Wang Shangwu. His face immediately turned pale, and he was extremely shocked. Yes. What is your relationship with Su Yi? Duanmu Xiaoman narrowed her eyes, and it was obvious that she didn't have any malice towards the two. Trembling, Wang Shangwu slowly poked his head out, and his eyes flickered slightly. My name is Wang Shangwu, Su Yi's brother. Sister, the one in your arms is Su Yi's younger sister, Su Wan'er. Duanmu Xiaoman's heart was slightly moved. So this was the brother and sister that Su Yi mentioned. Once again, he sized up Su Wan'er. Her long and slender eyelashes were nimble. With one look, he could tell that she was a top-notch beauty. Her veil was gently lifted, and every part of her face was like a beautiful jade carving. Compared to Duanmu Xiaoman, Su Wan'er was like a beautiful budding cliff flower, and her cold face was mixed with a feeling of immaturity. Sure enough, weren't you separated from Su Yi for a long time? Why are you still in the barbaric demon forest? Duanmu Xiaoman gently supported the snow-white and pure Su Wan'er, her eyes constantly sizing up Wang Shanwu, who was somewhat uneasy. We just came from somewhere else, and we're preparing to visit the Su family in Man City. We thought that there would be news about Su Yi. Wang Shanwu's voice paused. Obviously, he didn't say everything. By the way, Immortal sister, do you know Sui? Hearing Duanmu Xiaoman's question, Wang Shanwu was certain that not only was she not an enemy of Su Yi, but she was also closely related to Su. Rumble. Who is it? Why is Elder Qin's soul aura gone? Behind them, the sound of iron hooves could be heard. A large group of barbarian demon beasts sped up and headed towards the barbarian demon forest. The trees trembled and gravel flew everywhere. In the distance, a thick cloud of dust rose high into the air. Forget it, the people of the Holy Mountain should have all moved out. You know where the Su family is, right? Duanmu Xiaoman's spiritual sense was profound, and she immediately guessed that Elder Qin's accident would definitely cause the entire barbarian city and even the barbaric demon forest to be in turmoil. Under Wang Shanwu's nod, the ice crystal barrier instantly disappeared, and the wind-like pressure between heaven and earth rose again. Swish! In just a short while, Duanmu Xiaoman brought Wang Shanwu and Su Wan'er in the direction of Man City. Only the ice residue on the ground was left behind, and the blood that had not yet dried was left in the soil. The ground was in a mess. Countless deep pits, cracks, and trees were scattered everywhere, causing the people of the Holy Mountain to suck in a breath of cold air. Hiss! The tragic scene in front of them immediately shocked a large number of disciples and experts of the Holy Mountain. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them from head to toe. Who is it? To actually be able to kill Elder Qin. The person who spoke felt his legs go soft, his lips were dark purple, and his palms were trembling nonstop. In the vicinity of Man City, not only were there no traces of Su Yi, but great holy son Yuqi Chongfeng's personal elder had also paid with his life. A calamity lingered in front of everyone. Everyone, the murderer must still be in the barbaric demon forest. Find him even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. The leading expert's eyes were gloomy. Despicable. Who exactly is it that dares to offend the Holy Mountain? Someone behind him seconded. No matter who it is, if we can't find the murderer today, everyone will die. The Holy Son Elder wasn't an ordinary elder. If something happened to Elder Qin, who is the great Holy Son's mentor, everyone would have to pay with their lives. Could it be Su Yi? Su Yi is back. Someone muttered softly. The leading expert's strength of the Origin Emperor realm suddenly erupted, and a chill shot out from his long and narrow eyes. The commotion in the barbaric demon forest only lasted for a while, and the sun gradually set. Barbarian City welcomed an unusual night. The Su family, one of the 5 major forces in Barbarian City. After the entire family moved out, the Su family's courtyard was extremely spacious, and there was only an old housekeeper guarding the Su family courtyard. Sitting on the doorstep, he was drowsy as usual. Huff! A gust of cold wind blew, and the old man slowly opened his eyes and said softly, "Even the wind has become cold without him around." Immediately after, he tightened his shirt and closed the Su family's door heavily. When he turned to look at the Su family's courtyard, he seemed to see a white figure floating in his dim yellow eyes. Did this old man see wrongly? Immediately after, the old man laughed and comforted himself. Seems like I missed the family head too much. This old man is starting to have illusions. In a certain room, on a warm and soft high bed, lay the unconscious Su Wan'er. Wang Shanwu anxiously guarded by the bed, and the old housekeeper's coughs could be heard from outside the door. With the help of the moonlight, the silver frost scattered all over the floor illuminated the room. After being illuminated by the moonlight, Su Wan'er's pale face looked even more haggard. Duanmu Xiaoman was sitting on a chair, and her elegant figure looked like a goddess under the nightlight. She was pure and holy, without a trace of the mortal world's aura. Go and talk to the old man outside. He should know you. Ask him to get a basin of hot water. All right. Wang Shangwu's anxious face was extremely solemn. Immediately after, he nodded and quietly pushed open the door and entered. After Wang Shangwu left, Duanmu Xiaoman quietly sat by the bed and slowly channeled her energy into Su Wan'er's body. Once the energy entered the body, it was like entering the sea. Su Wan'er's surroundings were filled with extremely dazzling radiance, illuminating the room in the middle of the night as if it was daytime. This child has already reached the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm at such a young age. With such talent, could it be that those who are together with Su Yi are all monsters? Duanmu Xiaoman shook her head and smiled bitterly. She gently raised her hand and pushed Su Wan'er's hair to the side, her eyes filled with tranquility. Suddenly, Su Wan'er, who had recovered slightly, frowned. She closed her eyes and grabbed Duanmu Xiaoman's wrist with her small hand, muttering something. Big brother Su Yi, where are you? Wan'er is coming to find you. Don't leave Wan. Doesn't like the Cloud Immortal sect. Wan also doesn't like Daddy. Big brother Su Yi, can you bring Wan'er home? Big brother Su Yi, Wan'er really misses you. When Duanmu Xiaoman heard Su Wan'er talk about her feelings as a young girl, a trace of emotion unconsciously flashed across her eyes. Chapter 1734. This girl is shouting Su Yi's name even in her dreams. Is that guy really that charming? Duanmu Xiaoman's jade-like hand paused in midair as countless scenes flashed through her mind. Under the sea of broken swords, Su Yi had sacrificed himself to save her, using all his strength to clamp down on the blood-colored demonic dragon. After that, he had forced the crimson water crystal out of his body, giving Duanmu Xiaoman a chance to turn tables. Before he left, Su Yi had shouted himself hoarse behind her, causing Duanmu Xiaoman to smile. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, like a blooming snow lotus. Under the moonlight, she looked especially delicate and beautiful. Under the moonlight, the two beautiful faces were thinking about the same man. When she heard Su Wan'er shout about the Cloud Immortal sect, Duanmu Xiaoman was stunned. A thought flashed through her mind. Once again, he looked at Su Wan. Her pretty skin was so delicate that it looked like it could be broken by the wind. When he gently removed Su Wan'er's veil, the delicate and beautiful face that was revealed was like a goddess who had fallen into the mortal world. Could this girl be? Dubious, Duanmu Xiaoman thought for a while and felt slightly relieved. She let out a long breath and gently placed her jade-like hand on Su Wan'er's forehead again. Boom! A streak of azure-blue water yuan qi flowed into Su Wan'er's meridians very smoothly. Su Wan'er, who had fainted in an instant, began to relax. Her tightly clenched hand fell again. Duanmu Xiaoman was very curious as to why Su Wan'er's martial talent was so high. She probed with her mind and closed her eyes, feeling the yuan qi flow through Su Wan'er's body. In less than half a day, her eyes opened again. Duanmu Xiaoman's tightly shut eyes opened once again. Her face was filled with shock. Her cherry lips parted slightly as she once again channeled yuan qi into her body. Immediately after, a sparkling and translucent bead of sweat quietly fell from her forehead. Duanmu Xiaoman smiled bitterly. I haven't left the palace for a long time. To think that such a constitution would appear in the world. There are many things that you don't know. An extremely old voice suddenly came from behind him. A thin and small figure gradually walked out from the shadows like a ghost. It was the mysterious old woman who had taken Su Wan'er and Wang Shangwu away. He looked to be in his 60s. His clothes were coarse, and his hair was silver white. His face was full of wrinkles, and it was filled with the splendor of the moonlight. Who is it? Duanmu Xiaoman instantly glanced back and was slightly shocked. After such a long time, she actually didn't notice that someone was behind her. This old woman's cultivation was definitely not weak. At the very least, it was at the 5th level of the Origin Domain stage, or above. Moreover, she had an extremely good grasp of the spatial attribute. You're hugging my young mistress, and you're asking me who I am? The old woman narrowed her eyes and laughed dryly. She trembled as she looked at Su Wan'er, who was lying on the bed. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and love for Su Wan'er. Palace Master Duanmu, I didn't expect that there would be someone in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean who could break through to the half-step Yuan Tian stage. It's simply a miracle. Duanmu Xiaoman glanced at the old woman. Her right hand was still channeling Yuan Qi into Su Wan'er. You know me, a crane in the sky and a goddess in the sky. The siblings are unparalleled in the world. Who doesn't know of them? The people from the Cloud Immortal sect are indeed powerful. However, why would an ancient faction like you stay in the small Su family? What are your motives? Duanmu Xiaoman snorted coldly. The old woman's eyes suddenly lit up as a powerful aura filled the entire area. Knowing too much is not a good thing for you or for the Cloud Immortal sect. Since you saved my young mistress, the Cloud Immortal sect doesn't want to owe you a favor. The sect master will agree to one of your requests. Duanmu Xiaoman retracted her wrist. In an instant, the entire room became extremely quiet. Only the faint moonlight could be seen. However, Duanmu Xiaoman raised her chin slightly. The usually arrogant Duanmu Xiaoman was already displeased by the old woman's attitude. My young mistress is ignorant. The name Su Yi will disappear from her world in the future. If you see Su Yi, ask him to give up looking for my young mistress. It's best that people from the 2 worlds don't have any interactions. Hearing this, Duanmu Xiaoman suddenly stood up. The art of controlling the heavens was instantly activated. A powerful aura that carried a powerful pressure was comparable to the old woman's aura. For no reason, the 2 of them stared at each other. A huge soul pressure was pushed back and forth in the void like a tide. The table in the middle and the bookshelf behind them were constantly shaking. In an instant, the sound of porcelain shattering resounded in the air. The strong wind blew Duanmu Xiaoman's black hair high up in the air. Under the moonlight, Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful face was revealed from the darkness, cold and beautiful like a goddess. In the cold atmosphere between the 2 of them, Duanmu Xiaoman's long skirt fluttered as she frowned. You have no right to interfere with her life. You also have no right to cut off her feelings for Su. The old woman seemed to be instantly agitated. Her wrinkled face instantly squeezed together as she said in a low voice, outsiders have no right to interfere with the Cloud Immortal sect's business. If necessary, we will personally take Su Yi's life. How dare you? Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes suddenly flashed with anger. With boundless anger, all the soul pressure of the half-step Yuan Tian stage collapsed on the old woman's body. Her bright eyes and snow-white lips moved violently. The mighty soul energy was like a 10,000-year-old glacier that pressed heavily on the old woman's body. Bang! The monster emperor on the ground heard a muffled sound from afar. Because of the shock wave, the old woman was heavily thrown onto the wooden pillar. Countless cracks appeared on the wooden pillar. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, the old woman collapsed on the ground and looked at Duanmu Xiaoman, who was looking down at her like a goddess. Gulp! Blood slowly flowed out of the old woman's mouth. The huge wooden pillar behind her was already full of cracks, but it was still very strong. It could be seen that Duanmu Xiaoman's ability to use Yuan Qi had already reached the peak. Goddess Yu Tian's ability is really good. I admire it. Pua. Another mouthful of blood sprayed out. Duanmu Xiaoman's jade-like feet lightly touched the ground, and with light steps, she slowly walked towards the old woman. Her pair of slender and beautiful legs glistened in the silver light, as if they were made of jade, causing people to be unable to move their eyes away. If you want to kill Su Yi, I will first destroy the Celestial Cloud Sect. Ha ha ha. The Celestial Cloud Sect is not something you can mess with. Don't think that just because you can look down on the common people in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean, there are no experts in this world. The blood in her mouth had not completely flowed out. She laughed wildly at Duanmu Xiaoman. The Celestial Cloud Sect is not afraid of anyone, Duanmu Xiaoman replied indifferently. Duanmu Xiaoman said with a slight chill in her voice, as if she was a goddess looking down at the world with disdain. This lady has the innate saint body, but Su Yi is not bad either. I will use all my strength to make him trample all of you under his feet. Ha ha ha. The old woman's weathered and pale face instantly froze. Duanmu Xiaoman's expression did not look like she was joking. Chapter 1735. The old woman was shocked. Duanmu Xiaoman actually knew Su Wan-er's secret in such a short time. Her expression changed slightly, and a metallic taste surged up her throat again. Duanmu Xiaoman straightened her body and glanced at the old woman. Then, with a wave of her robe, she turned around and walked towards Su Wan. "What are you doing? Don't touch our young lady." The old woman shouted with all her might, as if she had gone crazy. In the exchange, just now, the old woman had completely angered this half-stepped Yuan Tian expert. At this moment, the old woman was afraid that Duanmu Xiaoman would do something extreme and hurt Su Wan. Duanmu Xiaoman gently brushed Su Wan-er's face. Her eyes were filled with love. Then, she took out a pill and fed it to Su Wan-er. A surge of medicinal energy rushed into Su Wan-er's nose like a snake. As soon as it entered her mouth, she could feel that it was extremely gentle, and it smoothed out her fragile meridians. A gentle light surrounded Su Wan-er's body. The light was extremely majestic. When the snacks were spread out, one could feel that Su Wan-er's aura had softened. Her tightly knitted brows had begun to relax. She slept peacefully on Duanmu Xiaoman's arm, and she softly murmured Su Yi's name. The Yuqian Palace's pill techniques are indeed amazing. Our Yunxian sect will remember young lady's kindness for saving our lives. After letting out a long breath, the old woman coughed twice. Duanmu Xiaoman blinked her eyes without any emotion. Duanmu Xiaoman's slender fingers brushed across Su Wan-er's pink face. She said, "The Yuqian Palace does not need any benefits from the Yunxian sect. I saved Wan-er only because she is Su Yi's sister." The old woman smiled bitterly and shook her head. She looked at Duanmu Xiaoman and said, "Su Yi has been a jinx since he was young. He is famous within a few hundred miles of Barbarian City. First, he provoked a saintess. Who would have thought that he would be loved by our young lady? I didn't know that Palace Master Duanmu also sees him in a new light." Duanmu Xiaoman had always been proud of herself and had never looked down on ordinary people. Now that she valued Su Yi so much, the old woman was curious. Under the moonlight, Duanmu Xiaoman slightly straightened her face and her beautiful eyes shyly. Young lady was picked by Su Yi. Since then, Su Yi has always treated young lady as his own sister. They were childhood sweetheart. In the end, I'm still very grateful to Su Yi. "Picked up?" Duanmu Xiaoman asked doubtfully. The old woman nodded painfully. Her slightly hoarse voice sounded faintly. "It was not until that time in the barbarian demon forest, when young lady used her divine body for the first time, that I realized that she was the young lady of the Yunxian sect. From then on, she is no longer a little servant girl in Barbarian City. She is the most powerful mistress of this continent. She is going to be the absolute overlord of one of the 5 major forces in the world." Duanmu Xiaoman gently placed Su Wan-er on the pillow and lovingly stroked Su Wan-er's head. She walked in front of the old woman again, and a wave of pressure surged forth. It was as if she was saying to herself, "Have you asked her? Do you think she wants to be the overlord?" The old woman shook her head and stood up with difficulty. "Palace Master Duanmu, you have your difficulties, and so do I. All these years, the Yunxian sect has sent so many people to search for young ladies' whereabouts. How hateful! We will definitely find the culprit for back then. We will avenge the humiliation of the Yunxian sect." Duanmu Xiaoman sighed deeply and said softly, "I only want to ask one thing. What?" The old woman's withered hands supported herself on the ground. With a slight push, she sat up and leaned against the wooden door. A look of pain flashed across her eyes. "Qing Tian has disappeared for many years. Does this matter have anything to do with the Yunxian sect?" Hearing this, the old woman shook her head and said softly, "I have been in the Su family for more than 10 years. After young lady left the Su family, I came. As far as I know, Duanmu Qingtian has disappeared for almost 100 years, right? Duanmu Xiaoman was silent. Among the 5 major forces, the Yunxian sect has always been the least interested in worldly affairs. I think we should ask that family about this matter. After the old woman finished speaking, blood flowed out of her mouth again. However, when she mentioned that family, her voice was clearly filled with fear and respect. That family? The two of them fell into silence. Their eyes met, and their expressions were grave. Pa! The sound of a basin falling to the ground came from the courtyard. The two of them turned their heads at the same time and saw Wang Shangwu's hands trembling as he stood upright. Grandma Yunji, why are you here? So the old woman's name was Yunji. Duanmu Xiaoman recalled that she was also a member of the 100 Heroes Palace during the Tianfeng ranking tournament. So it's you, Duanmu Xiaoman said. Wang Shangwu hurried forward and supported the old woman. His eyes were filled with tears, and his fat face looked extremely miserable. The old butler behind him held onto the door pillar, his eyes trembling as he said, "Young Master Wang, why are young lady and old lady Lu here? What's going on?" Wang Shangwu wiped his tears with his soaked clothes and said in a trembling voice, "Eighth butler grandpa, go and rest. I'll handle this." Looking at the miserable state of Grandma Yunji, Wang Shangwu was heartbroken. After the old butler left, Wang Shangwu sobbed and repeatedly apologized to Duanmu Xiaoman. I'm sorry. Fairy sister, please don't kill Grandma Yunji. She's a good person, it's just that her face is cruel. She treats me and Wanner extremely well." Finishing her words, Grandma Yunji's withered hand held on to Wang Shangwu's arm and comforted softly. "It's all right, Grandma can hold on. Don't cry." At this time, the noise seemed to have woken Su Wanner up. Sitting up, Su Wanner looked at the blood-stained Grandma Yunji in the distance. Her withered eyes burst into tears as she leaned back. "Bring Grandma Yunji back to rest. I'll take care of one. The people from the Holy Mountain will return to Barbarian City as early as tomorrow." Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were sharp as she said to Wang Shangwu. When Wang Shangwu carefully stepped over the threshold, Duanmu Xiaoman coldly said, "Yunji." Both of them stopped at the same time. A voice that sounded like a 1,000-year-old glacier pierced their eardrums. "Don't tell anyone about what I just asked you. I'll go look for them in the Tianfeng battle. Also, Su Yi's life is not something anyone can take." So, another pill was sent into Wang Shangwu's arms. The spiritual energy in the pill filled their nostrils, raising their spirits. Yunji's frail body swayed uncontrollably. A trace of helplessness appeared on his withered face as he smiled bitterly. "Shangwu, let's go. I'll come pick Miss up tomorrow morning and return to the sect." The moonlight shone on the ground like mercury. Too many things had happened in the small barbarian city in a single day. No one had expected it. Su Wan'er, who had recovered slightly from Duanmu Xiaoman's treatment and pills, was still extremely haggard. Her face was pale as she covered her face with her jade-like hands and cried incessantly. "Grandma Yunji, will you be all right?" "Sister." Su Wan'er sobbed softly as her frail body trembled uncontrollably. Sighing softly, Duanmu Xiaoman sat on the edge of the bed and gently patted Su Wan'er. "Even if elder brother Shang Wu doesn't say it, I know that father will make me go into seclusion. I can't leave the Cloud Immortal sect for the rest of my life." "What kind of logic is that?" Duanmu Xiaoman was angry. Shaking her head hard, Su Wan'er covered both sides of her head, full of melancholy, and said, "Father didn't say anything. I know he's sad, so I begged elder brother Shangwu to take me back to the Su family. Even if I can't see elder brother Su Yi, I'm satisfied to be able to go back to elder brother Su Yi's room." Pointing at the furnishings in the room, Su seemed to calm down. She gently absorbed the surrounding air and closed her eyes. "Elder sister, this is elder brother Su Yi's room. When he's not here, I'm the one who tidies up this place for him. Every time I miss him, I come to his room and sit there for the whole day. In the Su family, I know that he's the only one who treats me sincerely. So, I don't care what others say or do. In my heart, he's the best elder brother Su-yi. Following Su-won-er's train of thought, Duanmu Xiaoman also began to look around the room. Su-won-er's words lingered in her heart like a cool breeze, and she couldn't help but be moved. Don't worry, Su-yi is working very hard. You have to work very hard too. You'll all meet. Yes, I'll definitely go to the Tianfeng battle. I want to see my best elder brother Su-yi reach the peak with my own eyes. Su-won-er gently smiled, brimming with happiness. Won-er, were you separated from your family when you were young? Duanmu Xiaoman asked suspiciously. Su-won-er nodded and told Duanmu Xiaoman about how she was separated from her family in Man City. When I returned to the Cloud Immortal sect, Father was extremely happy. Then, you've never practiced martial arts before? Su-won suddenly understood. Her nose twitched slightly as she said softly, basically, I've never practiced martial arts before. It was elder brother Su-yi who protected me. I thought that I'd be protected for the rest of my life. After saying that, Su-won-er smiled, shook her head, and said to Duanmu Xiaoman, What's wrong? Sister, what's wrong? Duanmu Xiaoman tucked Su-won-er in and said, Go to sleep. You can't stay in Man City any longer. Rest well tonight and return to the Cloud Immortal sect tomorrow morning. Su-won-er gently nodded and closed her eyes gently. She said softly, Sister, you must help me take care of Su-yi. Thank you. After that, a gentle breathing sound could be heard. Overexerting her body had caused Su-won-er to become extremely weak. She reached the Origin Emperor realm at such a speed. With such a physique, it seems that the Cloud Immortal sect has a lot of secrets. It's even left behind in this small Man City. It seems that there's a lot going on here. Treasure of Man City? I don't think so. After watching Su-won-er sleep, Duanmu Xiaoman walked to the window. The faint moonlight shone on her face, which was full of heavy emotions. Qingtian, I'll come and find you tomorrow. I've been looking for you so hard. In the middle of the night, Duanmu Xiaoman sighed softly. It was like the low cry of a nightingale, which tugged at one's heartstrings and touched one's heart. It was a good night's sleep. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and the outside of the city was brightly lit. There were shadows everywhere. No one came to report anything strange in the city. Even the Song, Imo, He, and Lu families were alarmed. Almost all the disciples stationed in the Sacred Mountain were mobilized. The savage demon forest was bustling with noise and excitement. The demonic beasts hissed, and their roars shook the sky. Countless demonic auras rushed into the forest. Even the stronger demonic beasts were enraged. Wave after wave of demonic beasts began to attack the Man City. This made the already sensitive small city even more precarious. The families were miserable and tried their best to resist. After a night of searching, many disciples of the Sacred Mountain were injured or killed. However, the murderer's figure was nowhere to be found. The leader of the Sacred Mountain experts led all the disciples of the Sacred Mountain back to the city when the sky turned bright. The demonic beasts retreated, and the blazing fire filled the sky. Deacon, did the murderer grow wings and escape? City Lord Lu was also very tired and covered in wounds. Shaking his head, the deacon of the Sacred Mountain looked serious and said coldly, Continue the search. I'll bring people back to the Sacred Mountain to report to the first saint. The families were pleasantly surprised. The Sacred Mountain had been stationed here for such a long time. It was like a ticking time bomb that broke the balance of life in Man City. Chapter 1737. Then how do we explain the matter of Elder Qin? City Lord Lu approached the elder of the Holy Mountain and probed. The death of the Holy Sun Elder in the barbarian city, no matter who it was a grave sin. If they really wanted to blame, a few barbarian cities were not worth the life of the barbarian city. Fortunately, his daughter was the holy daughter of the Holy Mountain. He hoped that he could find a way to satisfy both sides and appease the anger of the great Holy Sun. Whoever did this, they have to bear the consequences. There are many houses in the barbarian city. It doesn't matter if we burn one or two. Everyone was a little confused by the words of the Holy Mountain deacon, frowning. Just as everyone was thinking, an extremely thin white yuan qi light whizzed past above their heads. Everyone in the barbarian city was full of thoughts no one noticed above their heads. They only felt an extremely cold breeze pass by. Do you feel anything in the past? The holy mountain deacon frowned, unconsciously shivering, and then raised his head to look at the sky. A group of people raised their heads in a daze, not understanding what was going on. Their faces were full of doubt, and they all shook their heads. The holy mountain deacon's face became serious, and then he shouted to the back, "People of the holy mountain, listen to my orders. Surround the Su family." Thump! Hearing these words, everyone's heart trembled in an instant. City Lord Liu, as well as the He and Mo family patriarchs, were even more anxious, not daring to make a sound. Send people to help the disciples of the holy mountain. Lu Zongyuan's eyes were cold. Then Lu Zongyan transmitted his voice to all the forces. Although the barbarian city is small, but it is the home of our 5 families. Everyone should work together to protect every inch of land in the barbarian city. Yes, City Lord Liu. The other family patriarchs all responded in a low voice. Lu Zongyuan's meaning could not be clearer. The holy mountain clearly wanted to do something to the Su family. As the city lord, Lu Zongyuan naturally did not want to see everything in the barbarian city because of these outsiders, even if it was the holy mountain that could not be provoked. All the patriarchs nodded their heads in agreement as they looked at the people around them and gave out orders one after another. On the other side, the courtyard of the Su family. Everyone had woken up early. Butler 8 was trembling, somewhat gloomy. "Miss, you're leaving again?" The patriarch and the others hadn't returned yet. "Let's wait for another 2 days." Butler Wong looked extremely disappointed. Housekeeper Ba tightly grasped Su Wan'er's hand. He really didn't expect that the little lousy child Su Wan'er had grown up to be like a fairy. Su Wan'er shook her head lightly. After looking around the familiar courtyard, she looked at Yun Ji and Wang Shangwu. She said softly, "The Su family has the 8th butler, so Wan'er is very relieved. Su, Yi, and Grandpa will be very grateful to you, but Wan'er must go with them. Take care of yourself." In the end, under Butler 8's reluctance, the 3 of them quickly turned into a ball of light and exited the Su family's gate, leaving the barbarian city ahead of the rest of the troops. "Family heads, I don't know when you will come back." Butler 8's half-opened eyes trembled slightly. He smiled bitterly as he looked at the dust in the distance. Sacred Mountain, in a splendid hall with golden walls. A fiery figure of a young lady dressed in red came into view. She had a curvaceous figure, and her dress fluttered slightly. There was a hint of elegance and arrogance in her youthful aura. Yuran stood in the middle of the extravagantly carved hall, like a fiery lotus in full bloom. Her bright and deep eyes were clear and bright like the stars. Compared to Su Wan'er, she was more mature and flirtatious. Her face was like a silver plate, and her eyes were like apricots. Her pair of watery pupils were like jade and pearls. How's your cultivation recently?" A vicissitude voice came from the stone chair. "My lord, I'm still at the first level of the Origin Emperor realm." The person who spoke was Lu Ruashi. She bowed slightly. Creak! The stone chair turned, and the image of a lady who was as calm as the abyss appeared behind it. She was dressed in a golden long dress and looked elegant and dignified. She had the aura of a superior. Her face was solemn, but there weren't many wrinkles. Her silver hair was combed into a high bun. Her skin was slightly loose from her sleeves, but she didn't look old. Her skin was extremely fair, and her eyes were clear and natural, which didn't match her age. She had a high nose bridge, and it was obvious that she was an absolute beauty when she was young. However, one could tell that she was around 70 or 80 years old from her voice. She was looking at Lu Ruashi with a kind face, and her eyes were filled with love. Reaching the Origin Emperor realm at the age of 16 or 17 is already extraordinary. At your age, even the first saint isn't your match. Don't be too modest. Lu Ruashi nodded and smiled gently. In an instant, the cold atmosphere became gentle. The Lord continued, I asked you to consider the matter that I asked you to consider the last time. Have you thought about it? Sheer is willing to participate in the Tianfeng ranking tournament. However, it's really hard for Sheer to decide between the first saint and the fifth saint. Let's leave this matter to you, my lord. A slightly hoarse and wild laughter came from the stone chair. The lord touched the jade in his hand and said, "It's good that you're willing to participate. Sheer, there are many experts in the Sacred Mountain this time. We will definitely make it to the top 20 again." Lu Ruashi nodded in agreement. This time, many experts from the Sacred Mountain would participate. It was said that the overall strength of the Sacred Mountain had increased by another level compared to the previous tournament 60 years ago. The fifth saint, Shuehong Lu, was fully prepared for the tournament and had yet to come out. Lu Ruashi nodded in agreement. Suddenly, the Lord changed the topic. His voice became deep and serious as he said, "Sheer, how long have you been in the Sacred Mountain?" "Almost 6 years." Lu Ruashi recalled and nodded softly. In the past 6 years, she had relied on herself from the barbarian city to the Sacred Mountain. Come to think of it, Lu Ruashi had the same stubborn temper as Su Yi. You have become so beautiful in 6 years. It's time for you to start a family. I'm sure that many outstanding talents will have their eyes on you in this Tianfeng ranking tournament. My lord, Sheer is still young. I won't think about these things. When the opposite sex was mentioned, Lu Ruashi's eyes suddenly flashed with a familiar image of a hooligan. It was Su Yi. Su Yi had molested her since she was young. However, he always affected her. He had molested her and saved her life. In Lu Ruashi's heart, Su Yi was a mysterious existence. All of a sudden, Lu Ruashi blushed and the color of her hair rose to her neck. The Lord continued. However, do you know that the final saintess of the Sacred Mountain has a unique mission? The Lord asked. Chapter 1738. Lu Ruashi raised her head and looked at the Lord confusedly. She did not seem to understand him. The Sacred Mountain was not originally controlled by me, but by the Sacred Emperor. My name is Lu Shining. Lu Shining? Lu Ruashi's eyes widened. The Lord smiled as he guessed Lu Ruashi's shock. She slowly stood up. Although she was older, she was still slim. Other than her voice, one could only tell that she was in her 40s or 50s. The Lu family was a wealthy merchant family in Zhong province. My father taught me martial arts when I was young and sent me to the Holy Mountain. You were able to enter the Holy Mountain because you are from a branch of the Lu family. Therefore, you and I are considered distant relatives. Lu Ruashi exclaimed. Her eyes were filled with surprise. She said softly, "I didn't even know about it. My father never mentioned it to me." The Man City is located in a remote area and has been neglected by the world. In recent years, the few saints in the Holy Mountain were unable to take on the important role. Therefore, I ordered the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea to look for talented young ladies. The Lu family naturally thought of the Lu family in the Man City. Lu Ruashi did not know what the Lord was trying to say when he mentioned the Lu family in the Man City and the Lu family in Zhong province. Lu Ruashi was lost in thought. She twisted her body and leaned towards the Lord. The Lord said in a deep voice, "Xier, you are so talented. You will definitely have a place in the Tianfeng ranking competition. The position of the Lord will be yours. However, I ask you to consider who is more suitable to represent the Holy Mountain between the Great Saint and the 5th Saint." Lu Ruashi frowned as she listened attentively to what the Lord was going to say next. 28 years ago, the Saint Emperor's whereabouts were unknown in the Chaos region. After that, I went to the Chaos region to search for the reason, but I only brought back Hong Lu. I ordered that no one was allowed to mention the Saint Emperor and sealed off all information. You should have heard about what happened in the Red Chamber. Lu Ruashi's throat moved. She looked at the Lord's haggard face and said while biting her lips, "Yes." The Lord continued, "The Holy Emperor and the Lord are husband and wife. Whoever represents the Holy Mountain in the Tianfeng ranking competition will most likely be the next Holy Emperor of the Holy Mountain. This means that one of them will become your husband in the future." The Lord stood up and walked to Lu Ruashi's side. He held Lu Ruashi's hand and caressed her fair and smooth hands. The Saint Emperor and I didn't have any children. When he was young, the Saint Emperor pursued martial arts wholeheartedly. When he disappeared from the Chaos Realm, there was no more chance. The Holy Mountain has 9 holy sons and holy daughters each, originally to choose the best of the best, to continue the bloodline of the Holy Mountain, to continue the orthodox holy monarch Qi of the Holy Mountain. Lu Ruashi's hands started to tremble slightly. The Lord was asking her to choose between Xiang House and Yuchi Changfeng. Choosing someone to represent the Holy Mountain was also choosing a husband for her. Lu Ruashi's eyes narrowed and her nose twitched slightly. Then, she tried to evade the topic. Holy Lord, I don't understand why the Holy Emperor disappeared back then. Why did he disappear into the Chaos Realm? Hearing Lu Ruashi's question, the Lord was not surprised at all. He waved his sleeve and sat next to Lu Ruashi. Generations of holy emperors pursued martial arts as the highest pursuit. The foundation that stretched across the continent for tens of thousands of years cultivated the unparalleled and wise holy emperors. It is also because of the efforts of generations of holy emperors that the Holy Mountain has such a deep accumulation. Lu Ruashi's eyes were watery. She was still thinking about what the Lord had just said, and the scenes of her time with Su Yi were spinning in front of her eyes like a revolving lantern. The Lord's words were deafening. He said in a deep voice, "However, the Holy Mountain should be more glorious and stand proudly in the world." Why? Lu Ruashi asked softly. With a long sigh, he said faintly, "Because the sages of the Holy Mountain have only passed down half of the Holy Monarch Qi. The Holy Monarch Qi is the foundation of the Holy Mountain. However, we can only bring out half of it. Is it because it has been too long that there is a problem with the inheritance?" The Lord held Lu Ruashi's hand again and placed his hand on the back of Lu Ruashi's hand. He said softly, "No, the Holy Mountain has only half of the Holy Monarch Qi since the beginning." Holding Lu Ruashi's hands tightly, the Lord's eyes were filled with emotions. Suddenly, his voice became sharp. He said, "Therefore, every generation of holy emperors took it as their responsibility to find the other half of the Holy Monarch Qi. They all wanted to lead the Holy Mountain to a stronger stage and become the 6th most powerful force in this continent." Are you talking about the 5 legendary ancient forces? The Lord nodded. His eyes were filled with emotions, and his lips moved. His voice brought Lu Ruashi back to the long river of history. The Tianan continent is extremely vast. Other than the one mountain, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 4 groups, there are 5 other ancient forces that occupy the peak of martial arts. They represent the most powerful forces in this continent, but they do not show themselves. They have been quietly guarding the Tianan continent behind the scenes. The Lord looked ahead and said coldly, "These 5 forces are the Yun family of the ancient celestial cloud sect, the Su family of the Thunderfire Holy Hall, the Lan family of the Tianlan Sea City, the Dugu family of the 10,000 Sword Alliance, and the Long family of the Brahma Dragon Divine Palace." That's not bad. I didn't know that there is such an existence in the Tianan continent. They are protecting the safety of the Tianan continent for us. Lu Ruashi nodded and looked at the Lord thoughtfully. Protecting the Tianan continent? That's all a lie. It's just to cover up their ugly faces. The Lord spat angrily. His dignified and elegant face was filled with a rare hint of anger. "Sure, although you are still young, you are the successor of the Lord. I don't mind telling you this. You must remember it in your heart and help the future Holy Emperor fulfill the unfinished dream of the Holy Mountain." Lu Ruashi's heart skipped a beat. She stood proudly in front of her chest with her red dress tightly wrapped around her chest. Her eyes were shining like stars. What he was going to say next would be the biggest secret of the Holy Mountain. 10,000 years ago, the Tianan continent was filled with humans and demons. In the beginning, martial arts were not as prosperous as it is now. The martial arts of the human race were led by the Tianfeng Martial Pavilion. The demon race was led by an even older sect called the Tian Yao School. The Tianfeng Martial Pavilion broke the shackles and formed a good relationship with the Tianyao school. The two sides lived in peace for many years. The savage demon forest that you live in was under the influence of the Tianyao school. The Lord's eyes dimmed slightly, as if he was reminiscing about the past. After many years of peaceful development, the martial arts of the human race prospered under the cultivation of the Tianfeng Martial Pavilion. Then, the 5 major forces were born. Chapter 1739. Because of that, the peak of human martial arts have been pushed to the extreme, resulting in what we have today. Is Tianfeng Martial Pavilion the sponsor of the upcoming Tianfeng ranking tournament? Lu Ruashi asked softly. That's right. The 5 great families also stood out in the Tianfeng ranking tournament. After that, they continuously seized the martial arts foundation of Tianfeng Martial Pavilion and developed into the giants they are today. The Lord paused for a while, and then said again with his eyes fixed on her. But people are never satisfied with the status quo. Soon, the 5 great families found out that the reason why Tianfeng Martial Pavilion was so powerful was because of the golden celestial stone and the earth-shattering heavenly wind divine sword. Golden celestial stone? Heavenly wind divine sword? Lu Ruashi was confused as she listened to the Lord. Rumor has it that there are 7 celestial stones in the world, which correspond to metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and thunder respectively. The golden celestial stone is one of them. It has the ultimate metal attribute energy. If one can have all 7 of them, he or she can break through the limit of martial arts and become the supreme ruler of the entire Tianyan continent. Perhaps he or she can reach a new realm that no one can reach. The heavenly wind divine sword is the symbol of the supreme power of Tianfeng Martial Pavilion. It is extremely sharp, and its grade should be even higher than a sacred weapon. After finishing his sentence, the Lord suddenly laughed. In order to get the golden celestial stone and get rid of Tianfeng Martial Pavilion, the 5 great families joined forces to attack Tianfeng Martial Pavilion. But the most ironic thing was that they did not find anything. The golden celestial stone was not found, and even the heavenly wind divine sword had disappeared. Lu Ruashi was still in shock. She listened to the Lord continue. After Tianfeng Martial Pavilion was destroyed, the continents continued to prosper. In the past 2,000 years, countless sects were established, and the Sacred Mountain was one of the most outstanding sections. The 5 great families, especially the Fan Long Celestial Palace, have been looking for the golden celestial stone and the heavenly wind divine sword. They believe that the remnants of the Tianfeng Martial Pavilion must be in the Sky Demon sect, which they were on good terms with. Lu Ruashi's breath slightly stagnated. She crossed her hands and clenched them tightly. She licked her dry lips and listened carefully. However, the Long family is already at the pinnacle of the continent. If they rashly annihilate another transcendent sect, their ambitions will be clear as day. The Long family had no choice but to use other people's hands to hide the truth from the other 4 sects. With the help of the Holy Mountain, the Sky Dragon sect, and other top forces, they believed that the demons were the beginning of the demons. They used the excuse of eliminating the demons to eliminate the Tian Yao school. Unfortunately, they still didn't find anything, but because of this, the 5 great families became hostile. From then on, the Long family didn't dare to act rashly. If the Holy Ruler's aura isn't in Tian Yao school, where else could it be? Lu Ruashi asked. The Lord chuckled and said in a low voice, Actually, the ancestor of the Holy Mountain did find the heavenly wind holy sword when the Holy Mountain was destroyed. There was half of the Holy King aura in it. However, it was kept by the Holy Emperor, so the Holy Masters had never seen it. Since then, the Sacred Mountain rose to power and quickly rose to the top in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. Unfortunately, the whereabouts of the Golden Celestial Stone have always been unknown. If the Holy Mountain had the other half of the Holy Ruler's aura, they would be incomparably powerful. This time, the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament would definitely be able to take the first place. Lu Ruashi nodded. The Lord had told her such an important secret, which showed his trust in her. Is the disappearance of the Holy Emperor also related to the golden celestial stone? The Lord's slightly proud eyebrows gradually lowered, and his eyes dimmed. 28 years ago, the Holy Emperor suddenly found out about the whereabouts of the golden celestial stone. He rushed to the chaos region with the heavenly wind holy sword. Since then, there's been no news of him. After that, I rushed to the chaos region. From the soul sense, I knew that the Holy Emperor had died in the end. The heavenly wind holy sword has also disappeared. Lu Ruashi said softly. Who has the ability and courage to kill the Holy Emperor? Could it be the Long family? For so many years, I've been guessing the same thing. These few families have been hiding very well, and this heavenly wind ranking tournament is the best opportunity. The Holy Mountain has been developing rapidly for so many years, and it has already aroused the suspicions of the 5 aristocratic families. However, no one dares to act rashly. The Holy Mountain does not dare to announce this news to the public. Otherwise, it will be a disaster for the Holy Mountain. Announcing the death of the Holy Emperor meant that everything that happened in the past would be announced to the public. By then, it would not only be the Long family's hatred, but also the entire 5 aristocratic families. Phew! Lu Ruashi let out a long breath. She did not expect there to be so many twists and turns in the past. The Holy Emperor had died, and the Lord had been hiding for so many years. Do you still remember that the great Holy Sun sent people to eliminate the Li family a few days ago? Lu Ruashi nodded and asked, does it have anything to do with the death of the Holy Emperor? The Lord shook his head and said softly, no, it's just that we found out that the Li family had the water celestial stone. Then, did the Holy Mountain get it? The Lord shook his head, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Changfeng spread the news outside, and the group of old men also said that they were going to deal with the Yuqian Palace. In fact, they just want the water celestial stone. The Yuqian Palace is just a cover. If they can increase their combat power before the Tianfeng ranking tournament, it's not impossible. The Lord did not finish his words. Of course, the Lord knew about the water celestial stone, and so did Lu Ruashi. Lu Ruashi listened to the whole story, and she started to feel disappointed. Protecting the Holy Emperor and the Holy Mountain for the rest of her life was her mission as a saintess. During the decades when the Holy Emperor disappeared, the Lord had been supporting the Holy Mountain alone. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared. My Lord, you have told me everything. Are you going to? The Lord gently stroked Lu Ruashi's black hair and said softly, the whereabouts of the heavenly wind godly sword is unknown, and the inheritance of the Holy Mountain is in danger. The Holy Emperor's enemies will definitely investigate this matter. No matter who it is, they will have to settle it in the heavenly wind ranking tournament. If anything happens to me, you will have to shoulder the burden of the Lord, even if you are still too weak now. Lu Ruashi took a step back in realization. Could she really handle such a heavy burden by herself? At this moment, a demonic but not evil face appeared, looking at him with a smirk. Sui, Lu Ruashi muttered in her heart. Is this the last time I will see Sui in the Tianfeng ranking tournament? Lu Ruashi's lips twitched, and a sense of sadness filled her heart. Ever since she entered the Holy Mountain, she had been cultivating like crazy. Perhaps this was the end that was destined from that day onwards. So your choice is my choice. Yuqi Changfeng or Xiahong House? The Lord stared at Lu Ruashi with his cold, piercing eyes. Chapter 1740. On one hand, it was the great saint of the Holy Mountain who had great power. On the other hand, it was the mysterious genius that she had brought back from the Chaos region. In a sense, Lu Ruashi's choice for the next Holy Sage's husband was the Holy Sage's choice for the next Holy Emperor. Lu Ruashi remained silent. Her face was pale, as if she had lost her soul. She did not know what to do. The Holy Sage had told her so many things today, as if he was leaving his last words. If the person who won the Heavenly Wind ranking became the Holy Sage, She would have to assist him to obtain the heavenly wind divine sword and the missing heavenly golden stone. She would pass down the holy king energy of the holy mountain and achieve another peak of the holy mountain. She would never be able to leave the holy mountain and carry such a huge burden on her back. Hesitation, helplessness, speechlessness. Lu Ruashi's eyes gradually became misty. She bit her lips, and her lips turned red. She was wearing a red dress, but she was like a rose in the flame. She was holding on until the last moment. What's wrong? The holy sage frowned as his eyes lit up. Lu Ruashi shook her head slightly and pushed the holy sage's hand away. She took a step back and said, Holy sage, I have to report this to my father. I can't make a decision about my marriage. The holy sage's eyes were cold. He said, I have told you so much. You should know that there is no turning back. Lu Ruashi remained silent and stared at the ground nervously. Is it because of Su-yi? Lu Ruashi suddenly raised her head and said in shock, How is that possible? He had molested me before, and I wanted to kill him. I even took the crimson heavenly crystal from the holy mountain. I really want to. The holy sage sighed. The entire hall was filled with a suppressive energy. Lu Ruashi froze on the spot. The holy sage stared at Lu Ruashi for a while and said, You should know what you are doing. As the holy maiden, you should know what you have to do. When your father sent you to the holy mountain, he had already decided your fate. If Su-yi wants to get in the way, based on his sins, even 1,000 deaths wouldn't be enough. Lu Ruashi remained silent. She looked down and said softly, Holy sage, I know. Oh, fine. I'll give you a few more days. After the Tianfeng ranking tournament, make a trip back to Man City and report to your father. After the wedding, it will be difficult for you to leave the mountain again. As for Su-yi, the heavenly wind ranking tournament will naturally have its end. At this moment, Su-yi, who was far away in the burial frigid grounds, was experiencing the ultimate water element in the 100-year frigid water. If he had known that he was being chased by so many people, even 100 sneezes wouldn't have been enough. You can leave first. Lu Ruashi felt as though she had been pardoned. She bowed slightly and walked out of the hall. Lu Ruashi's heart trembled when she saw a dazzling golden light shining from a distant hill. Su-yi, I hope we won't meet each other in the heavenly wind ranking tournament. Lu Ruashi said dejectedly. Right at this moment, a muscular man with a curly beard and a heroic aura walked over. A golden aura filled the air, as if a ferocious, barbaric, demonic beast was closing in on Lin Fan. Lu Ruashi recognized the man. He was Elder Yin Hai, one of the subordinates of the first holy prince, Yuchi Changfeng. She nodded and smiled faintly. Elder Yin Hai, who was striding forward, nodded at the same time. His stern face was filled with nervousness, as if he was worried about something. Lu Ruashi was puzzled. Elder Yin Hai had always been calm. How could he be so rude? She didn't think too much about it and flew back to her palace. In the sacred palace, after Lu Ruashi left, the Lord had his back facing the door. He was looking at the huge painting of the sacred mountain on the wall. There were dragons and phoenixes carved on the painting. It was extremely beautiful and described the history of the sacred mountain. It was grand and magnificent. Holy Emperor, there are some things that I didn't tell Shi-er. Finally, this day has come. Can what you said become reality? Is the red chamber the chosen one that you spoke of? The Lord murmured. It turned out that when the Lord went to the Chaos region to explore, he did find the Holy Emperor who was on the verge of death. The Holy Emperor suggested that the Lord not pursue the murderer for the time being. Instead, he went to a nearby village to find the whereabouts of the golden heavenly stone. Since it was so close, he had to complete the most important thing. In the end, I found a red chamber. He did not disappoint. He is extremely talented. Everything will depend on the heavenly wind ranking tournament. The Lord nodded slightly. A deep voice sounded behind him. Lord, Yin Hai requests an audience. Come in. After tidying up a little and wiping away the tears at the corner of his eyes, an old and firm voice slowly filled the entire sacred palace. The heavenly wind ranking tournament was about to start. All the top forces, The 5 ancient aristocratic families, and even the heavenly palace were actively preparing for it. Everyone knew the importance of this ranking tournament. Only those who were participating in it would understand. This ranking tournament was filled with treacherous thoughts. Under the eyes of the continent's experts, everyone had their own plans. At this moment, in the barbarian demon Grand Canyon, a moon-white figure was searching back and forth. The barbarian demons were crawling and roaring. Countless demonic chi soared into the sky. High-leveled barbarian demon beasts could be seen everywhere in the forest. They were constantly roaring and lying on the ground. When Duanmu Xiaoman approached, all the barbarian demon beasts instinctively hid far away. The pressure that this woman brought was extremely terrifying. Her arrival caused the entire barbarian demon forest to tremble. Duanmu Xiaoman stood at the location that Su Yi had pointed out. From the traces left behind, Duanmu Xiaoman could feel that there was an extremely small spatial fluctuation. This proved that there was a spatial restriction left behind here. Why is it gone? Duanmu Xiaoman softly cried out. Her heart was filled with grief as she sat down on a rock. A drop of sparkling tear rolled down. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were dazed as she spoke with a trembling voice. It's been 100 years. What happened to the promised return? Not far away, the barbarian city was in full swing. The people from the sacred mountain surrounded the Su family, but suddenly retreated. After that, the Su family was inexplicably set ablaze. Boom, boom. The raging flames were like tongues of fire that wanted to devour everything. The rising flames were extremely hot. They wildly extended their tentacles and surrounded the entire Su family's courtyard. The Su family's courtyard, which was usually bustling with noise and excitement, was instantly engulfed in a sea of fire. The Lu, Imo, and Yi clan's gazes were incomparably fierce. They stared at the direction where the people from the sacred mountain went and roared crazily. Put out the fire! Put out the fire! Everyone in the small city was mobilized to carry water and put out the fire. When everyone felt a cold light above their heads, they rushed into the Su family's courtyard. Butler 8 was huddled in the corner. His eyes were empty and his body was surrounded by tiny ice crystals. He was safe and sound. The scene in front of them shocked everyone. Chapter 1741. Heaven Burial Cold Ground. Wind and snow filled the sky, and the extreme temperature seemed to have frozen time in the world. The white mist that rose from the cold water stayed on the tree branches, and icicles quickly formed. Time passed quickly, and 5 days had already passed. The iron soulfish lying in the entrance had already recovered from its injuries, and it also began to adapt to the surrounding cold environment. This kid, it's already been 5 days. Why is he still so focused? Carefully sensing the changes in Su Yi's body, a strange light pervaded Su Yi's body. Heaven and earth shook, and the pressure that filled the sky continuously pressed down on Su Yi's body. At first, the spiritual energy in his body seemed to have stagnated, and his meridians were suffused with a blue color, as if they were frozen. Small streams of spiritual energy gradually began to move, and like a spirit snake, it began to burrow into his soul. Rumble. Amidst the clanging of wind and thunder, the energy radiance that was like an arc of light surrounded the heavenly origin demon's soul, continuously releasing extremely shocking sounds of collision. The mysterious ball of light in his soul continuously released dense, milky white energy, and in the mysterious space, the crimson water descent also began to become extremely quiet from its initial turbulence. In the space, spiritual energy spread out, and above the small pool of spirit liquid, the ice-blue crimson water, heavenly crystal, continuously rotated, illuminating the entire space like a world of ice and snow. White clouds overlapped above, and behind the clouds, wind and thunder would occasionally strike, and electric arcs would revolve. The blood jasper spirit, ginseng, hiding in the medicinal bushes, also began to have a serious expression, greedily breathing in the spiritual energy that was pressing down from heaven and earth. Countless tiny fibrous roots flipped up and down, and a pair of bright eyes opened wide. It said softly, "What kind of fortuitous encounter did this kid encounter again? Not only is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in here, but it's also pure." Looking at the crimson water heavenly crystal that was already tightly connected to the small pool of spirit liquid, the blood jasper spirit ginseng's mouth opened wide. This crimson water heavenly crystal seems to have already submitted to this space. It's simply a miracle, the spirit ginseng exclaimed. Only Su-yi, who was sitting cross-legged in the cold water, knew that he had gone through the process of adapting to the environment and using it in these 5 days. Now was the most crucial moment. He had to use the water-type origin energy in his soul to the maximum. He had to use his soul to stimulate the water-type origin energy in his body and create his own soul skill. Snow and goose feathers in the distant horizon, the wind suddenly rose and the clouds surged. Invisibly, Su-yi closed his eyes and listened carefully to the sound of the wind, his heart constantly filled with a shocking chill. Outside the frigid water, the ground trembled and exploded. Suddenly, countless shallow gullies spread out. The iron soulfish stared at Su-yi's yuan qi attribute with great astonishment. Su-yi's entire body was immersed in the water elemental energy barrier. His hand seals gradually began to condense. The water attribute yuan qi in the sky was like a living creature, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as it poured into Su-yi's pores. At this moment, the incomparably dense water elemental energy began to merge with the water elemental energy in his body. His heavenly origin demon soul began to emit an extreme blue color for the first time, replacing the previous dense scarlet color. The iron soulfish said softly, "The mysterious ball of light has acknowledged the crimson water heavenly crystal's water-type origin energy. This kid's soul has already begun to get close to true water elemental energy." Between heaven and earth, the void trembled. The thick cloud scroll was like a water-type brute demon beast. It roared and crushed Su-yi's mind with its bloody mouth. Immediately after, an extremely powerful invisible force began to spread. It spread for a few thousand meters in the air and continued to expand. The frigid water also expanded from the bottom of the tree to the center of the mountain peak. The frigid water became less and less. Su-yi gradually sat cross-legged in the world of ice and snow. Immediately, an even more breathtaking spatial riot began to sweep through the surrounding air. The iron soulfish, who was crouching in the vestibule, gulped and narrowed its eyes. It could already sense an extremely dangerous feeling. The strange and mysterious hand seals continued to be formed. Following the changes in Su-yi's hand seals, all of the spatial attributes around him began to fluctuate violently. In a vast expanse of whiteness, extremely strange ripples could be clearly seen on the layers of clouds behind him. The next moment, Su-yi instantly opened his eyes and stood up abruptly. His figure rose like a ferocious bird. 2 streaks of azure light shot out from his eyes. The wind and snow in front of him churned violently, bringing about a terrifying tumble that faintly overlapped with each other. Heaven bearing 1,000-layered hands. In the vast expanse of whiteness, countless white hand seals spread out in the wind and snow. As the hand seals condensed, the surrounding space instantly collapsed inch by inch. A green figure glided out, waving his hand seals repeatedly. Within his long sleeves, it was as if he had swallowed up all the wind and snow in the world. Then he charged out in one go. The vast and boundless water attribute yuan qi layered on top of each other. The thick ice layer was instantly shattered by the countless hand seals that swept through the sky. In an instant, thousands of hand seals gathered and struck the top of Zongtian Mountain at an almost destructive speed. A huge hand seal that was more than 1,500 meters long gathered in the sky above. The hand seal appeared out of thin air, and the calm spatial ripples were suppressed to the point of almost shattering. Not having had enough, he flipped his body like a swan. The vast Yuan-Chi figure surged between heaven and earth. The hand seal swept out in an instant and once again struck down fiercely. Boom! 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 The ice tree had 1,000 shadows, and the silver flowers were flying. The hand seal landed on the cold water, and countless icicle branches rushed into the sky like sword shadows. Then, an unusually terrifying wave rippled out. Under such terrifying waves, endless light and shadows instantly rushed into Su Yi's mind. A wave of information that was as vast as the ocean gushed out. Every move could be seen clearly. In an instant, the information turned into light threads and fused into his bloodline. The iron soulfish immediately shouted and said softly, "This is sword intent? The inheritance of the will of countless ancestors of Jutian Palace on the artifacts?" Su Yi was also overjoyed. The explosions on the top of Zongtian Mountain were endless, and the sound of the explosion was endless. The waves shook up a meter, and the entire space instantly exploded. The mountains collapsed, and the earth cracked. The sound shook the 9 heavens, and the waves splashed high. The violent power swept through with the wind and snow. In an instant, countless disciples of Jutian Palace rushed out from the front peak of Zhongzhen, the Gantian Branch Peak, and the Dikuan Branch Peak. Their expressions changed drastically, and they looked nervously at the back of the mountain. Little did they know that the back of Zhongzhen Peak was experiencing a monstrous commotion. On Lingyue Peak, Han Yuro, Achu, and the others heard the explosion and felt a chill in their hearts. Big brother Su Yi, who was standing at the side, moved his eyes. He led dozens of ordinary elders and teaching elders to guard the entrance of Zhongzhen Peak. The savage beast mounts under his feet immediately neighed, and the heaven and earth surged. Palace Master Gyue, what happened on Zhongzhen Peak? After that, several figures, including Long Pasan, Nye Shuangjue, and the others who hadn't left yet, all looked solemn. Chapter 1742. Several of them could no longer hold themselves back because the palace master had not made any movements. As soon as they heard the commotion, they stood upright at the front peak and carefully observed with solemn expressions. Roar! Their mounts roared incessantly, causing the heavens and earth to rumble as they looked towards the rear peak with fearful expressions. The mountains and rivers in the distant horizon fluctuated as countless azure cold air rose. Gyue's eyes narrowed as he tightly gripped the savage beast beneath him. He was in disbelief. Is the palace master and Su Yi up there? Long Pasan shook his head. His slightly turbid eyes widened like those of a tiger as he spoke in a low voice. Could it be that the palace master took him to the heaven burial ground? Long Pasan clicked his tongue in wonder. Gyue waved his sleeve and nodded as he spoke to the experts of the Imperial Palace behind him. Everyone of the Imperial Palace, heed my orders. Head to Yuzhou in 2 days. Prepare quickly. Do not delay. Yes. The teaching elders and ordinary elders naturally understood Gyue's intentions. They quickly returned to their senses and rushed to the 2 side peaks. Snow drifted down from the heaven burial ground. A green figure streaked through the snowy sky and landed steadily on the top of the heaven burial peak. A pool of 100-year cold water was already submerged in the void. In the blink of an eye, it was covered in snow. The thick layer of snow was covered in translucent crystals. Su Yi was pleasantly surprised as he cheered. Did it work? Su Yi's face was pale as he landed on the snowy ground. He was very excited. Not bad, kid. You've only just comprehended it, but it's already so effective. Your soul skill is truly extraordinary. If you can practice a little more, it will definitely become a killing move in battle. The iron soulfish spoke faintly, but he still couldn't help but stare at Su Yi in shock. Su Yi turned around and scratched the back of his head. Only then did he realize that the entire heaven burial peak had been flipped upside down. The layer of snow was newly superimposed, and the water in the profound Five Elements pool had already dissipated. There were deep ravines everywhere. After all, Su Yi, who had just arrived at Burial Heaven's peak, had nearly been frozen to death by the extreme temperature here. It had taken him several days to get used to it. Who? Su, he let out a long sigh of relief. Looking into his mind, he instantly frowned. This kind of attack had consumed a lot of his soul energy and Yuan Qi. Relying on his Yuan Qi attribute, he could only barely activate it. It was extremely strenuous for him to use it with his cultivation at the 4th level of the Origin Monarch realm. Although it wasn't like the Blood Phoenix split the heavens where he had to stake everything on a single throw, he couldn't guarantee how many times he could use it. Fortunately, he had the boundless Great Void Divine Sea. Sui knew that it was precisely because of the boundless supply of the Great Void Divine Sea that the soul skill that he had just comprehended was able to unleash such shocking effects. You just comprehended it and aren't very familiar with it yet. Try to use it sparingly. Control the degree of closeness between your soul energy and the Yuan Qi in your Dantian. Then, you'll be able to unleash it several times. The Iron Soulfish seemed to have seen through Suyi's thoughts and said softly, "However, the attack just now should be at least at the royal grade." The Iron Soulfish was faintly surprised. This kid's comprehension ability was outstanding and could be said to be abnormal. Comprehending a soul skill on his own was simply heavenly. Turning around, the soul puppet nodded slightly in its heart. To be able to unleash such a soul attack with the strength of a 4th level Origin Monarch. It was mainly due to the Crimson Water Heaven Crystal and the mysterious ball of light in his Dantian's Dantian. This kid will only get stronger in the future. I'll also bask in the glory of the Tianfeng ranking tournament. The soul puppet's mouth lifted slightly. I've been comprehending here for a few days. Why isn't Duanmu back yet? On Burial Heaven's peak, wind and snow filled the air. Su-yi, who was immersed in comprehending, also forgot about the time that had passed quickly. It's been about 5 days. It should be night at the foot of the mountain now. Su-yi formed a hand seal again and sat cross-legged again. He began to circulate his origin chi and slowly drew a large circle with his palm before slowly lowering it again. There's still some time. I'll wait here for her to return. Besides, I haven't comprehended the Imperial Sword intent just now. There's just enough time. Sui thought to himself, do you want to die? The Imperial Sword intent is condensed from dozens of generations of Imperial Sword Palace masters' souls and willpower. It's the final obsession with weapons. How can an Origin Monarch like you comprehend it so easily? You've exhausted so much just now. Save your energy. The soul puppet shouted. At night, Su-yi was still on Burial Heaven's peak, comprehending the technique of soul energy and origin chi familiarizing himself with. In the night, the Yuqian Palace was brightly lit. Everyone was preparing for the trip to Yuzhou in 2 days. Time flowed like water. As the sun rose and set, Su-yi gradually entered the best state of cultivation and comprehension. The abstruse and complicated ice-blue radiance was as resplendent as the sun set. Su-yi, who was sitting upright, felt as though he was in a dream. Su-yi began to recall every word that Duanmu Xiaoman said. He gradually allowed himself to enter the abstruse world of ice and frost again. My water form and fire form are of such high quality. I wonder if there's any place in this world that has the ultimate fire attribute, like Burial Heaven's cold ground? As he groped and searched, his mind seemed to be extremely clear. However, it suddenly became extremely hazy and unfathomable. Amidst the confusion, Su-yi was slightly shocked. Suddenly, Su-yi felt that his body had an additional layer of intimacy with the water attribute. His consciousness looked inwards. His heaven origin demon soul was dark and gloomy, but it was emitting a mysterious radiance. The mysterious ball of light around him seemed to have an additional layer of shackles, and it was extremely stable. In the next second, the incomplete sword intent that he had comprehended at the Shunjian Gate appeared before Su-yi's eyes again. This kind of concept could only be sensed and couldn't be described with words. This kind of wondrous feeling caused Su-yi to gradually immerse himself in it. Snow filled the sky, and the earth was in a daze. Ice crystals continued to fall around Su Yi's body. They were as obedient as living creatures as they flew up and down. This trip to the Imperial Sword Palace wasn't in vain. The quality of his soul had finally been tested, and he had also obtained the White Flood Dragon God's power and his own soul skill. Although he was forced to do something beyond his abilities, he wasn't very proficient in using the Burial Heaven's thousandfold hands. However, when combined with his Empress Sparrow's power and Golden Dragon's aura, it should be able to become another trump card besides the Origin Supreme technique and the Heaven Origin Demon Scripture. From now on, Su Yi truly felt that he had begun to break through to the Origin Ancestor realm. Without the cultivation of his soul, the Origin Ancestor realm was vast and boundless, making it difficult for Su Yi to find a direction. The Heavenly Wind Ranking Tournament would be a huge turning point in Su Yi's life. Not only would it affect the elites of the 6 continents, 3 prefectures, and 1 ocean, but it would also affect the legendary ancient aristocratic families. His thoughts seemed to have grown wings as they flew high into the sky. Amidst the vast emptiness, Su Yi began to enter an exquisite stage of comprehension. Chapter 1743. Another day had passed, and the next day was the day to depart for Yuzhou. The top of Zongtian Peak was covered in snow again, and there were no traces of Su Yi's cultivation. A layer of pale blue water vapor flickered and made Su Yi look like a god. Another night had arrived, and the moon was hanging high in the sky. The night sky above Zongtian Peak was magnificent, and the stars in the sky were like a chessboard. After being awakened by the spirit beast, Su Yi gradually opened his eyes. After a long period of cultivation and recovery, Su Yi felt refreshed. The great void spirit sea was filled with boundless chi of vitality. His wide meridians had recovered, and his body was cool. He was no longer afraid of the extreme temperature. Under the moonlight, Su Yi could see a beautiful figure standing at the side of the mountain. Under the moonlight, the moon robe fluttered. It was a beautiful and enchanting woman. Under the night sky, Duanmu Xiaoman appeared so tranquil and beautiful, without the slightest hint of smoke or fire. Her skin was translucent, glowing with a bright light. The beautiful figure was deep in thought. It was Duanmu Xiaoman who had returned from the Man City. Her hair was fluttering in the wind. I better not tell him about Suwon. He is impulsive, and it is inevitable that he will do something. Duanmu Xiaoman made up her mind and listened to Su Yi's happy shouts behind her. "Master, you are back." Su Yi looked at the beautiful figure in the distance and rushed to Duanmu Xiaoman's side. His face was filled with excitement. Under the moonlight, Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful face had a trace of sadness. Her body was slightly wet, and it was obvious that she had been standing there for a long time. Seeing that Duanmu Xiaoman was ignoring him, Su Yi looked at the spirit beast and said softly, "Master, when did she come back?" "I don't know either. Her current skill is above mine. I just calmed myself down with you." "How would I know?" Seeing Duanmu Xiaoman in this state, Su Yi naturally knew that this trip to Barbarian City wasn't going to go smoothly, but it wasn't appropriate for him to ask. Master, tomorrow is the Heavenly Wind Ranking Tournament. I've already made my preparations." Duanmu Xiaoman answered softly, then said to Su Yi, "Your soul skill has just reached the small success stage. You still need to comprehend more along the way before you can master it." Su Yi nodded. He saw that Duanmu Xiaoman wasn't happy about his progress at all. Instead, she was frowning. Since he did not have any plans for tomorrow's Heavenly Wind Ranking Tournament, he started to feel anxious and try to find a topic to talk about. "Master, did you see anyone from the Holy Mountain in the Barbarian City?" Duanmu Xiaoman nodded and told Su Yi everything that happened along the way. She saved the Su family from the fire and killed the people from the Holy Mountain. What? The Holy Mountain dares to burn down the Su family's residence? At that moment, a ball of anger soared into the sky. The boiling blood in his body seemed to be on fire as it rushed to the horizon. Su Yi's eyes were scarlet red. In the pitch-black night, He was like a wild beast, roaring and shouting in all directions. A ball of fiery red whirlpool rose from his hands, and in the dark night, an incomparably monstrous flame erupted. Chi-chi, crackling sounds came from Su Yi's body, and his entire body began to tremble. Because of his anger, he became incomparably resentful. It was as if he was about to rush to the holy mountain and fight to the death in the next second. Duanmu Xiaoman slowly turned around and coldly looked at Su Yi. In that instant, Su Yi felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. Are you very angry? Do you want to kill your way to the holy mountain and kill them now? Duanmu Xiaoman said indifferently. What do you mean? The extremely angry Su Yi looked at Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes. When their eyes met, one was cold and one was hot, incomparably bright and dazzling. Duanmu Xiaoman could see the anger in Su Yi's eyes. She was even more certain that Su Wanner's matter could not be told to Su Yi. I brought the Su family over for you. I protected the 8th housekeeper for you. I've also protected the Su family's residence for you. But tomorrow is the Tianfeng ranking tournament. You're so impulsive and easily fell into the trap. If I'm not around, who can protect you? Duanmu Xiaoman's words instantly woke Su Yi up. The Holy Mountain's actions were undoubtedly to lure him into the trap. Rushing up in anger was exactly what they wanted. Everything is not simple. I know from the Holy Mountain that even the annihilation of the Leaf family was not simple. The original name of the crimson aqua crystal in your body is the Heaven Suppressing Stone. Rumor has it that it was used by the gods to suppress the heavens. The Holy Mountain is most likely involved in the fight for the Heaven Suppressing Stone. In other words, if the secret of you possessing the crimson aqua crystal is leaked, you'll die without a burial ground and be besieged by everyone. So you guys call the 7 heavenly crystal the Heaven Suppressing Stone. But it's also appropriate. This 7 heavenly crystal is derived from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It's originally an item of the gods. It's too distant a matter. Who knows, it might really be used to suppress the heavens. The iron soulfish said with a chuckle. Old tie, even you don't know? Su Yi asked in a low voice. Su Yi pondered for a moment and said to Duanmu Xiaoman, does everyone in the Holy Mountain know about the crimson aqua crystal? I only know that the people stationed in the Su family and the ones who annihilated the Leaf family are the same group of people. They're all the Holy Mountain's great holy son, Yuqi Changfeng. Su Yi narrowed his eyes, and a piercingly cold, killing intent appeared in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, Yuqi Changfeng, I'll remember you. One day, I'll make you kneel before me. It's good that you have this ambition. Then, I'll first guarantee that you can survive the Tianfeng ranking tournament. Don't be rash. You need some confidence to show off. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes faintly flashed with worry for the first time. Compared to the Broken Sword Sea, Duanmu Xiaoman was more worried about Su Yi. Slowly looking at the snow still fluttering behind her, Duanmu Xiaoman muttered in her heart. Qing Tian's disappearance must be related to the aristocratic families. After thinking for a while, the two of them were speechless. Su Yi laughed softly inside. Now that things have come to this, what do I, Su Yi, have to be afraid of? From the barbarian city to the central region, to the chaos region, to the heavenly palace, which time wasn't thrilling. Duanmu Xiaoman smiled brightly under the moonlight as she spoke softly. Tonight, go back to the Su family and have a good rest. Tomorrow morning, go to the nether region. Luo Wuya will be waiting for you at the teleportation station. Just as she finished speaking, Duanmu Xiaoman turned into a ball of ice crystals and disappeared in the boundless silver radiance. Under the starry sky, her beautiful figure disappeared without a trace. Only a faint fragrance was left in the air. Alone on the mountain peak, Su Yi's heart sank. A trace of determination flashed through his sword-like brows as he headed towards the direction of the Su family. In order to appease Su Yi only told him that he was going to the sacred mountain for Lu Ruashi and that he was only stationed there to see if he would return. This faintly dispelled the Su family suspicions. Su Yi, who slept alone for the entire night, was unable to close his eyes. His bright eyes sparkled in the darkness. Chapter 1744. It seems like she still hasn't found the old senior. Was it the old senior restricted by a strong force? Or could he have gone? At this juncture, I'm guessing that the person who set the restriction took him away. The soul puppet helped Su analyze. With the iron soulfish's reminder, Su immediately sat up, his eyes full of doubt. The aristocratic families have been fighting for the water heaven-suppressing stone for a long time. Even the holy mountain is involved. After I took the water heaven-suppressing stone, the holy mountain lured me out in Barbarian City. It's reasonable. But for the senior to disappear at the same time, this is too unusual. It can only mean that there's a power stronger than the holy mountain that moved the old senior away first. That it can only be the aristocratic families. So he carefully calculated in his mind. Immediately, his eyes were filled with rising flames as he gritted his teeth. What kind of top power is the holy mountain? In the end, they're just fighting for the water heaven-suppressing stone in the name of dealing with me in the heavenly palace. They even used such a despicable method to lure me in. What kind of King aristocratic family is the same? They're all a bunch of sanctimonious trash. He couldn't help but roar in his mind. His sharp gaze seemed like it could shoot through the window. Following which, the iron soulfish comforted a few words, and he gradually calmed down. When we reach Yuzhou tomorrow, it's better to keep a low profile. One day, I'll bathe the holy mountain in blood and find the Duanmu Qingtian for master. With that, he calmed down from his anger. Thinking about how he would be able to see Yunjing when he reached Yuzhou, he couldn't help but feel a faint sense of anticipation in his heart. Chi-Chi. Without further ado, he sat cross-legged in his simple bedroom and guided the soul skill he had just comprehended. His hands formed a seal, and his eyes were tightly shut. His body was enveloped in a layer of faint azure light, as if his entire person was draped in deep waves. The night passed quickly. The sun shone brightly, and the golden light sprinkled down. Everyone from the heavenly palace was already waiting near the teleportation station. The sky was bright, and there were already many people standing near the Imperial Heavenly Palace's teleportation station. Palace Master Gue led the other palace masters of the branch palaces and all the elders of high rank 4 and above to wait in silence. Jun Haoyan stood beside Palace Lord Gue, and behind him, a group of Command Heaven Palace's disciples were whispering amongst themselves. They were extremely proud to have been chosen to participate in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Their eyes were filled with pride, and they all looked excited and expectant. Long Pasan glanced at it and whispered to Luo Wuya. The matter of vast heaven being taken in as a disciple by Grand Elder Lin Xiao, everyone should know, right? AI, Yi is really generous. Luo Wuya's face twitched, and he didn't say anything. Nie Shuangjue's eyes twitched. He pointed to the front and said, Jun Haoyan is talented. It's not strange that Taishang Elder likes him. But wouldn't it be better if Yi became the disciple of the palace master? Very likely. Long Pashan's eyes flashed. He thought back to the huge commotion at the peak of Burial Heaven 2 days ago and nodded thoughtfully. A flame flew by in the distance. Yi had already arrived near the teleportation station. Palace Master Gue, everyone has been waiting for a long time. When Gue and the others saw Yi coming, their eyes flashed coldly. Gue said loudly, Not late, not late. Just in time. Looking at Yi, everyone was shocked. They all found that Yi's aura had changed, but they didn't know what had changed. On Jun Haoyan's side, all the participating disciples behind him looked at Yi. At this time, Yi's name was as loud and clear as Duanmu Qingtian's in the past. Those who participated in the Rider Soul competition and those who were older and hadn't participated in it stared at Yi carefully. They were so nervous that their throats moved. In high spirits, Yi walked over with a smile on his face. His long green robe fluttered behind him. His eyebrows were sword-like, with a hint of evil aura. The evil aura instantly suppressed everyone to the point that they couldn't breathe. When Su-yi was about to speak, Jun Hao-ian immediately approached him. He was so excited that the corners of his mouth lifted into a bright smile. Su-yi, in this ranking battle, I will fight with you properly. Su-yi was also very shocked. He looked at Jun Hao-ian. The aura of a middle rank 4 was much stronger than a few days ago. He thought to himself that he must have received guidance from Powerhouse. In just a few days, he could actually improve by leaps and bounds. Good. With you in the Rider Palace, you will definitely get a good result. Looks like you have a fortuitous encounter. Jun Hao-ian was slightly embarrassed and said in a low voice, "The elder on the stage officially accepted me as a disciple the day before yesterday. I have to thank you for this." After saying that, the corners of Jun Hao-ian's eyes turned slightly red. Su-yi laughed heartily and patted Jun Hao-ian's shoulder. Suddenly, there was a loud sound behind. Boom! A strong snowstorm suddenly sounded behind him, causing the surrounding space to ripple and spread in all directions. Su-yi turned around in shock. After the snow and ice condensed, countless small wind blades with earth-shattering aura quickly attacked everyone's heart and soul. In the blue light, a beautiful figure in a moon robe slowly walked out. A pair of watery eyes seemed to be mixed with mist, and her clothes fluttered in the wind. Her snow-white skin was dazzling under the golden light. Everyone riding on the barbaric beast mounts came down and hurriedly saluted and shouted, "Greetings, Palace Lord." Duanmu Xiaoman looked around at everyone, and her gaze fell on Su-yi. She then said lightly, "Guyue, has everything been arranged according to last night's plan?" Guyue nodded heavily. His robes fluttered as he said softly, "Everything has been arranged. This Heavenly Wind ranking tournament will definitely bring good news to Palace Lord and Palace Lord. No need, I will go personally. When we reach Yuzhou, we will listen to Guyue's arrangements." Yes, everyone agreed. Once they finished speaking, they were incomparably shocked. What? Palace Lord is personally leading a team to participate in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament? Long Passion's eyes widened like copper bells. Su-yi was also shocked, but he was more happy in his heart. With Duanmu Xiaoman participating, he inexplicably felt more at ease. He's going to find Duanmu Qingtian's whereabouts, right? If he's really taken away by a force stronger than the Holy Mountain, what will you do? The Iron Soulfish also saw through Duanmu Xiaoman's intentions. Thinking of this, Su-yi's heart gradually sank. His finger lightly tapped on his chin. Even so, I will still help her. His gaze shifted away from the crowd. Very consciously, everyone opened up a path for Duanmu Xiaoman. After Duanmu Xiaoman's figure disappeared into the light of the teleportation array made of crystals, everyone entered the array one by one. Su-yi was the last to stand on the teleportation array. He discovered that this time, other than the Palace Lord, Vice Palace Lord, and the newly appointed teaching elders of Heavenly Palace, there were a total of 30 mid-ranked 4th-grade elders and 10 high-ranked 4th-grade elders. In the team led by Jun Hao-ian, there were a few older beginner rank 4 experts. The rest of the youthful-looking ones were all advanced rank 3 experts. It seems that Heavenly Palace really put in a lot of effort this time, placing great importance on the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Su-yi said softly, "Let's go. Let's also go to Yuzhou to take a look. Big Brother and the others are probably anxious from waiting." Su-yi smiled faintly. Standing on the teleportation array, a faint light gradually surrounded Su-yi. Everything in front of him gradually became blurry. Chapter 1745. When the Imperial Goddess Duanmu Xiaoman announced that she would be following the Imperial Goddess to Yu Province, everyone present was shocked. This was the first time that Duanmu Xiaoman had left the mountain after tens of years. Back then, the fame of Crane Pillar and the Imperial Goddess had spread across the entire continent, and there was no one who did not know of them. When the members of the Imperial Goddess Palace who were going to participate in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament heard this news, their spirits were lifted and smiles of disbelief and confidence appeared on their faces. When the Imperial Goddess Palace arrived in Yu Province, it would also shock all the cultivators in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. At the same time, they heard from Luo Wuya that the Holy Sage was also going to participate in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Gu Yue and Su Yi's faces darkened. The Holy Mountain was their common enemy, and their every action would determine the severity of the situation. What was the Holy Sage's motive for participating in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament? Was it to target the Imperial Goddess Palace or Su Yi? If there was a conflict, should they expand it, or should they endure? Everyone in the Imperial Goddess Palace was in danger, and only Duanmu Xiaoman remained calm as she listened to everyone's analysis. Seeing Duanmu Xiaoman's indifferent attitude, everyone felt more at ease. Everyone had the same thought. With such a strong palace lord leading us, we really don't need to be afraid of anyone. Along the way, Su Yi did not speak to Duanmu Xiaoman, nor did he intentionally participate in the discussions of the Imperial Goddess Palace. However, his gaze would involuntarily wander around Duanmu Xiaoman. Duanmu Xiaoman also maintained a certain distance from Su Yi. She was constantly surrounded by the palace lord and Guyue, so she did not have the time to look in Su Yi's direction. She did not even glance at him. Slowly following behind them, Su Yi was bored to death. He plucked a large leaf from the side and placed it in his mouth. The faint bitterness caused Su Yi's spirits to rise. He had the time to think about the upcoming Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Brat, do you know the rules of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament? I didn't see you paying attention the entire way. Iron Soulfish said softly. Su Yi nodded and took out the Heavenly Wind medallion. According to the person who received the medallion, Elder Xiao Wuxiu, there is still a time and place for the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament's rules is also the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament's location and time. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament's rules are also the rules Heavenly Wind ranking of the Heavens ranking tournament. Heavenly Wind ranking. The ice of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament Heavenly sex. This of the heavenly heaven of the of heavenly continents of the of heavenly continent of the heavenly continents of heavenly earth, heavenly as well heavenly as heavenly heave, of course, in the world heavenly realm. Heave. Su Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. Ever since he started cultivating, he had always been able to fight those of a higher cultivation level than him. Even if his opponents were incomparably strong, he would always be able to rely on his talent and luck to survive. But now, the Iron Soulfish was actually saying that he was weak. I'm serious. Your growth speed is already considered outstanding in this continent. Your talent is also not bad, but you still have a long way to go. Su Yi fiercely raised his fist, a stubborn aura surging with blood as he spoke. Good. I hope you don't reincarnate so quickly. One day, I'll go to the place you spoke of. I'll make you bow down to me. The Iron Soul Puppet let out a hollow laugh and lightly said, Let's be the first in Heavenly Wind. First in Heavenly Wind. Being first in Heavenly Wind meant being first in the entire Heavenly Barbarian continent. From being first in Myriad Sword, to being first in Sacred Martial, to being first in the Alliance. Su Yi was already used to being first and would never allow anyone to surpass him in the martial way. Under the same conditions, even if they were more talented or older than him, he would not allow them to surpass him. This was a martial way that belonged solely to Su Yi. Ever since he was judged to have the qualifications to be an odd job worker, Su Yi's fighting spirit had never been extinguished. The Iron Soulfish's attitude further stimulated Su Yi's determination. Su Yi gradually raised his chin, and a trace of light flashed across his eyes. His eyes faintly looked at the graceful Duanmu Xiaoman in front of him. Then I'll let you all see. First in Heavenly Wind. Kid, you're quite ambitious. The Iron Soulfish slightly smiled, and slightly narrowed his eyes in the entryway. Lying in the entryway, he greedily absorbed the boundless benefits brought by the divine profound spirit veins. An incomparably vigorous fighting spirit surged like magma, boiling and rolling in his wide blood vessels, and his bones crackled. Su Yi's green robe fluttered in the wind as the dust beneath his feet fluttered in the wind. Accompanied by the faint sound of wind and thunder, Su Yi's fighting spirit was instantly stimulated by the iron soulfish. This kind of pressure caused the Duanmu Xiao man in front of him to slightly turn her head, and then no longer look at him. "We're here. We're at Nether City," Luo Weia loudly said to the experts of Heavenly Command Palace behind him. He pointed at the tall city gate in front of them and wrote the 3 words Nether City in a flamboyant style. Stroking his beard, he smiled. Most of the people of Heavenly Command Palace had come to Nether Province for the first time, and Luo Weia had already introduced them to many places along the way. Nether Province, one of the 3 provinces of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea, was equally famous as Cloud Province. Cloud Province was located high and far away from the central continent and other core continents, but there were many places in Cloud Province that were rich in spirit energy, and natural resources. At the same time, because of its remote location and high altitude, Cloud Province had many dangerous places and natural secret realms. Nether Province was a paradise for secluded cultivators, mercenary groups, and rogue cultivators and adventurers. Nether Province, on the other hand, was different. Compared to the Cloud Province, Nether Province was not high, but it was close to the endless sky sea, located at the edge of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. It was rumored that Nether Province was a barren land in ancient times. After the great calamity of the ancient times, Nether Province gradually prospered due to the martial Tao. The chaos in the Chaos region was man-made, but Nether Province was chaotic because of the barbaric demonic beasts. There were many barbaric demonic beasts of water, wood, earth, and wind attributes in Nether Province. Demonic beasts that flew in the sky and swam on land could transform into barbaric demonic beasts. Nether Province's Nether Province was the largest in the 10 Directions continent. Therefore, the strongest force in Nether Province was the demon subduing sect. Annihilating demonic beasts and controlling barbaric demonic beasts were the demon subduing sect's unique martial skills. The demon subduing sect's ability to transform their origin energy into barbaric demonic beasts' inner cores was especially outstanding. Nether City was the biggest city under the demon subduing sect, and also the headquarters of the demon subduing sect. The Heavenly Wind ranking tournament was being held here. When he heard the name Demon Subduing Sect, a trace of laziness flickered in the corner of Su Yi's eyes as he snorted lightly. Chapter 1746. Demon Subduing Sect, Nangong Hang, and the Mysterious Treasure Chest. Just these 2 items alone are enough for the Demon Subduing Sect to kill themselves. Lightly scratching his head and shrugging his shoulders, Su Yi's sword-like eyebrows twitched as he muttered to himself. Looks like there are quite a lot of opponents in this Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Holy Mountain, Demon Subduing Sect. Looking from afar, there was a huge bull head engraved on top of the city gates, its horns soaring into the sky. Its fierce eyes were blood red, as if it was looking down on everyone who came to Nether City. The city walls stretched for thousands of meters, and a wild and rough aura filled the sky. The city walls were made of black iron, and coupled with the oppressive dark clouds above, an oppressive atmosphere instantly filled everyone's heart. Upon closer inspection, the black iron bull's head that was hanging from the ceiling was incomparably large and lifelike, as if it was alive. Just a pair of eyes that were filled with deterrence seemed to carry a monstrous pressure. Cultivators with low cultivations did not even dare to enter the city gates as their legs trembled, not to mention the wild beasts crawling around it. It could be said that this was the strongest demon hunting ground. Demonic chi soared into the sky, piercing through heaven and earth. He straightened his face and shrugged, his palm facing down and his 5 fingers curling slightly. Whoosh whoosh, activating the Origin Supreme technique. He immediately felt refreshed, and his eyes flashed with a faint golden light. This place is very similar to Azure Water City. Su Yi's deep eyes flashed with a trace of light, and he said softly, 5 years, there are only 2 more years left. Under Luo Hui's call, Su Yi and the young disciples quickened their steps, following the elders of Heavenly Drive Palace into Nether City. Because it was a special period of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, the city guards did not stop strangers from entering. Seeing the triangular insignia on the chest of the Heavenly Drive Palace, they knew that they were from Heavenly Drive Palace, and their eyes became even more solemn. When the white moon flashed past, a fragrant wind blew, invading their hearts. The guard at the city gate unconsciously glanced at Duanmu Xiaoman. Even though it was just the side of her face, the guards were stunned. The elegant fairy, who looked like she had come out of a painting, appeared in front of everyone. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes congealed. She looked straight ahead and walked into the city. The hands of the guards that were holding their weapons began to tremble slightly. Their throats kept rolling, and the sound of swallowing was extremely loud at this moment. With his mouth wide open, he muttered, so beautiful. Even after Duanmu left, his eyes were still staring at the silhouette of the woman who had disappeared into the distance. It was as if his eyes were about to fall off at any moment. At the same time, there was a look of disappointment on his face. The group of commanding Heavenly Palace disciples behind him looked at the guard's expression and covered their faces as they laughed. Duanmu Xiaoman's divine appearance could cause such a reaction. Everyone was already used to it. After a short pause, the young disciples puffed out their chests and walked into Nether City with even more confidence. Before Su Yi had even entered the city, his eyes were already filled with mockery. The fire attribute energy around his body was like an arrowhead that exploded with a loud bang. The whistling soul power instantly crushed the guards, causing ripples to appear in the surrounding space. The ripples were like long whips, hitting the brims of the guards' hats heavily. The hats were all over the guards' heads. Suddenly, Su Yi's eyes burst out with killing intent, pulling the guards back from their enchanting state. The guards were extremely embarrassed. They coughed dryly and hurriedly adjusted the blood wolf hats on their heads. They hurriedly straightened their bodies and held the sharp giant axes in their hands, not daring to look around recklessly. With a sneer, Su Yi walked through the city gate. His azure robe fluttered in the wind and fluttered on the city gate's face. Before entering the city gate, Su Yi held a weed in his mouth and lazily glanced at the guards on both sides. Their legs were trembling uncontrollably. Mother of Asterisker, the guards of Nether City are far inferior to the guards of Zhongzhou. How dare they peek at my Duanmu Xiaoman with this level of skill? Su Yi cursed in his heart as an inexplicable jealousy surged up. The iron soulfish chuckled softly. What did you just say about my? Su Yi, who pretended not to hear anything, turned a little gloomy. A whirlwind appeared under his feet as he rushed to the side of the commanding Heavenly Palace. The moment he entered the city, the towering demonic chi outside the city dissipated instantly. Su Yi's eyes darkened as he rubbed his nose and said, "This demon-subduing sect is quite something. Aren't they just casually talking about top factions? They can actually use the natural demonic chi of Nether Province as a protective barrier. This is somewhat similar to the array in 9 Stars Valley." As he walked along the streets, the air was filled with the faint fragrance of Duanmu Xiaoman. The streets gradually widened, and the tiled buildings were completely different from those in Yin Province. Nether City, which didn't see the sun all year round, was mainly black and purple. Dark clouds covered the sky, and a faint murderous and solemn feeling filled the air. There was less of a faint sense of leisure, but more of the style of the houses. They were filled with primitive wildness and blood, and the air was faintly filled with the smell of natural beasts. The runes and carvings constantly stirred up the violent and fanatical factor in Su Yi's body, causing Su Yi's restless blood to rush straight to his heart and soul. Su Yi roared in his heart. He wanted to fight to his heart's content, break through the heavens and earth, and welcome the light. I think I understand why the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament is held in this damned place. Su Yi's lips curled into a smile as he clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Because of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, there was an endless stream of people on the streets, causing the originally not small Nether City to be filled to the brim. Perhaps it was because the Heavenly Command Palace had arrived late, but they didn't see any signs of the other top sects or aristocratic families. Shwa shwa. When the people from the Heavenly Command Palace walked into the most crowded street, all of their gazes landed on Duanmu, Xiaoman's body. Her long moon-colored dress trailed on the ground, and her tight waist was completely outlined by the long dress. There wasn't a single bit of fat on her body, and it gave people endless fanciful thoughts. Looking carefully, one could feel that many of the male cultivators on the street were burning with desire. There were also female cultivators who were incomparably shocked. After comparing the two, their eyes were filled with jealousy, and they tightly covered the eyes of the male cultivators, telling them not to look anymore. So beautiful! What sect are they from? Why is the lady leading them so beautiful, just like a fairy? A thin and tall cultivator with his face covered kept swallowing his saliva as he spoke. Looking at their clothes, they should be from the Heavenly Command Palace. Then the leader should be Duanmu Xiaoman. I just heard that she was coming, and I'm so lucky to meet her today. Duanmu Xiaoman? You mean the number one beauty of the heavenly barbarians from 100 years ago? Duanmu Xiaoman. The short cultivator beside him shouted loudly. Chapter 1747. Everyone's eyes were immediately filled with shock. Duanmu Xiaoman's slender, snow-white legs lightly tapped on the black stone floor. It was as if she was stepping on everyone's heart. Plop plop. Since Duanmu Xiaoman came in, time seemed to have stopped. Those who were making a racket, pushing and shoving, shouting, or even those who were walking with their heads down, had all stopped in their tracks, carefully admiring Duanmu Xiaoman's graceful fairy-like figure. Su Yi, who was standing behind him, was both happy and angry at the same time. I had to find a chance to get her to change her outfit. With this appearance and this figure, it's really asking for the lives of those who haven't seen the world. Then he put his hands behind his head and sped up. No wonder she doesn't come out casually. She really caused a big commotion when she came out. Looking at the exaggerated expression of the person beside him, Su Yi rolled his eyes. So, she's the number one beauty of Sky, Barbarian Continent? I'm actually, with the number one beauty of Sky, Barbarian Continent? Thinking about how he was on top of the number one beauty of Sky, Barbarian Continent, Duanmu Xiaoman, he wasn't sober one time. Instantly, Su Yi's heart and soul trembled. There was an indescribable excitement in his heart. Bastard, you're thinking of love again. The iron soulfish said helplessly. He felt that something was wrong with the flow of his profound energy. All the disciples of Sky Command Palace were even more arrogant. Their faces were full of arrogance. They looked straight ahead and followed Luo Wuya to the branch palace in Nether City. At this time, a few martial practitioners were whispering behind them. They looked up and down, occasionally looking at Duanmu Xiaoman and the people of Sky Command Palace. Especially towards Duanmu Xiaoman's back, he started to fantasize. Sky Command Palace actually brought so many experts this time. It seems like they're really taking this seriously. Unlike the other sects who have all kinds of extravagant displays, flying mounts, barbarian demons, ancient beasts, profound arcs, and heavenly ships, I'm sick of looking at them. TSK. Driving Heavenly Palace is still the best. Walking into the city, the beauties are so eye-catching. So he couldn't help but grumble inwardly. Just as he was about to turn around to see who was so talkative, another voice came from behind him. Both of them are beauties, but the Lord is a few decades younger than Duanmu Xiaoman. She used to be the most beautiful woman in the 100 Heroes Palace, but when she entered the city yesterday, she looked old. Time is unforgiving. A warrior next to him suddenly shouted, "The Holy Master is not good, but the Holy Maiden is not bad." Although not all of them are here, the few who are here are also outstanding beauties. They are extremely beautiful. After they finished speaking, several slightly wretched martial artists suddenly revealed lustful smiles, pushing and shoving each other. What a lively scene. TSK, TSK, TSK. Obscene laughter filled the air behind him, and he even added a sentence. Especially that woman in red. TSK, TSK, that one with tender skin. He could squeeze water out of it. This Heaven Wind ranking tournament has nothing to do with me anyway, so it's not a bad idea to look at some pretty girls. Zong. That red figure suddenly appeared in Su Yi's mind. Her eyes were clear and bright like the stars. Her snow-white skin seemed so strong under the bloody storm of Barbarian City. A blood-colored rose was Su Yi's best understanding of her. That lass is here too. Su Yi muttered in his heart. Instantly turning around, Su Yi's soul-spirit pressure filled the air, and like a blade, it blasted towards the few warriors who were talking nonsense. They seemed to have felt the change in Su Yi's pressure, or maybe they were annoyed by the strange gazes around them. Before Su Yi's pressure could reach them, Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes moved slightly, and her delicate hands waved slightly in the air. Immediately, a violent wind blew, and the sky was filled with ice and frost mixed with a soaring, demonic aura, blowing the few warriors who were talking nonsense into the air. Suddenly, wails that came from the bottom of their hearts broke through the sky, and the entire world was filled with painful screams. Slowly turning her head, Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful face was filled with killing intent, and her watery eyes had a trace of disdain and disgust. All of a sudden, the entire street quieted down with tacit understanding. Hoochie! Only the sky was filled with ice crystals, and the sound of wind whistling could be heard, shaking the souls of everyone present. Boom! The sound of the wind rang out, and a dense demonic aura spread out in the air. Roar! A huge raging bull covered in scarlet flames charged over, bringing with it a flame pillar that was a few hundred meters long. In an instant, the entire space began to tremble. Duanmu Xiaoman narrowed her eyes as she watched the huge scarlet flame raging bull being crushed by the wind and snow. Two absolutely terrifying and powerful forces came crashing down, covering the sky and covering the earth. The entire space exploded with a terrifying sonic boom, and the sound waves swept out, twisting the space around them and shattering it inch by inch. Gyue and Luo Wuya's eyes darkened at the same time as they looked at the figure flying over from the right side of the city gate. The two of them spoke in unison. Qi Dongjue. A fiery red raging bull image streaked across the sky, arriving in front of everyone. Its eyes were huge, and its skin was red. Its hair was standing on end, and it was panting slightly as it cupped its fist towards everyone with its withered hands. The Imperial Palace has come to visit. Dongjue is sorry for not coming out to meet you. Long Pasan whispered to Su Yingf. The sect leader of Demons Subduing Sect hasn't even arrived, but the Grand Elder of Demons Subduing Sect is here. Su Yi was extremely shocked, and he whispered, "Grand Elder? Aren't they all peerless geniuses? Why would they come out so casually?" Carefully sizing up the old man in front of him, his cultivation level was simply unfathomable. But from the two moves just now, Su Yi believed that this person was definitely not as strong as Duanmu Xiaoman. He's probably here for our Palace Master. A few decades ago, our Palace Master's followers could be lined up from Cloud State to Middle State. Is it that terrifying? Su Yi was extremely shocked. After that, the old man in Su Yi's eyes walked up to Duanmu Xiaoman with an excited expression. Because of his excitement, Qi Dongjue actually choked up a little. His hands trembled slightly as he said, emotionally, "Palace Master Xiaoman, I'm Qi Dongjue of Demon Subduing Sect. 60 years ago, I was fortunate enough to meet you in the previous Tianfeng ranking tournament. That time I was shocked. I didn't think that I would be able to see you again in this life. This is the happiest moment of my life. Duanmu Xiaoman narrowed her eyes, and Su Yi was also a little confused. Duanmu Xiaoman looked even more beautiful than a young lady in her early 20s, but Qi Dongjue was already an old man that was drier than a 1,000-year-old tree. Looking at the old man pouring out his heart to his master, Su Yi was instantly enraged. Duanmu Xiaoman looked at the approaching Qi Dongjue, and her eyes were cold. With a wave of her robe, several ice crystals instantly stabbed into the ground. Ding, ding, ding. Several icicles that were emitting cold air stood upright on the ground, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over Qi Dongjue. Chapter 1748. Qi Dongjue was in a daze. His fiery emotions were instantly extinguished by the coldness on the ground. He stood rooted to the ground, his hands hanging in the air as he stared at Duanmu Xiaoman like a log. Duanmu Xiaoman's moon-colored robe fluttered slightly, revealing her slender, snow-white legs. Everyone couldn't help but linger on them, unable to extricate themselves. "Forgive my rudeness, Palace Master Duanmu." Dongjue was indeed too impatient. "Please forgive me." Everyone present was shocked to see the Grand Elder of the demon-subduing sect, the core of one of the top sects in Yuzhou, speaking so humbly to Duanmu Xiaoman. They couldn't help but gasp. Guyue, Long Pasan, and the others were also speechless. In terms of seniority, this Qi Dongjue was far above them. They didn't expect to meet Duanmu Xiaoman in such a fawning manner. They really didn't have the style of a top sect. Su Yi had already cursed this red-haired old man in his heart. This old man is too shameless. He's a Grand Elder after all. How can he be so unreserved? What demon-subduing sect? It's just as foul. He looked at Duanmu Xiaoman and found that her eyes were also cold, as if she didn't know this Qi Dongjue at all. Duanmu Xiaoman didn't look at Su Yi seriously along the way. Now, she looked directly at Su Yi and blinked twice. The sudden closeness made Su Yi's lips curl up, revealing his white teeth. Then, both pairs of eyes fell on Qi Dongjue, revealing a look of disgust. "What are you doing?" 5 short words. Duanmu Xiaoman's voice was like silk, gently brushing through everyone's heart. Qi Dongjue seemed to have received a response. The fire of love in his eyes burned again. He took a step forward, but because of the sharp icicles, he hurriedly retreated and gulped. The old man's beard shook up and down, and his eyes shone brightly. He didn't care about the strange gazes of the crowd at all. "Today, I heard from Sect Master Bao, that the Imperial Sky Goddess Duanmu Palace Master has graced us with her presence. Hence, I rushed over. Fortunately, I managed to make it in time and was the first to welcome Palace Master." Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were slightly impatient. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, she repeated, "What are you doing?" Seeing that they were about to leave, Qi Dongjue was a little anxious. He said from behind, "The heavenly wind ranking has yet to begin. Palace Master Duanmu, please do us the honor of staying at the demon-subduing sect. Everyone in the sect will definitely welcome you and celebrate." "No need." With a flick of her sleeve, her graceful and elegant face was incomparably cold and elegant. Qi Dongjue slowly lowered his raised hands. His face was filled with loneliness. The beautiful figure in his eyes gradually disappeared. Qi Dongjue was like a child who had lost his hope and love. At this time, the entire street was jammed with people who were originally not paying attention to the situation. Many of them were cultivators from the top 3 forces of various continents. Those top forces had already moved into Nether City. Even if there was a commotion, they would not casually come out. Guyue, Long Pasan, and the other palace masters were even more embarrassed. They nodded apologetically at Qi Dongjue and turned to follow Duanmu Xiaoman. The bustling crowd had their eyes fixed on Duanmu Xiaoman. Wherever she went, she would definitely be the center of attention. Her popularity is a little too high. Su Yi was secretly shocked. Thinking back to those charming scenes, a surge of hot blood rushed to his forehead. Then, a burst of joy rose in his heart. AI. Qi Dongjue's lonely figure was left outside the crowd. Suddenly, a burst of strange laughter rang out from behind him. Huh, is that old man from the demon subduing sect crazy? Why is he still chasing after girls in his old age? Sunset glow. A monstrous wave of energy surged behind him. Following a loud shout, a palm print brought with it a powerful force. A muscular, burly man in snow-white armor flew over with a round object in his right hand. As the figure broke through the wind, terrifying ripples of wind surged out in all directions. The terrifying power was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. In an instant, the dense crowd was pushed back. Their souls could clearly sense that the man's aura was like that of a ferocious beast. Behind him, the image of a white tiger could be faintly seen. Under the crushing pressure of absolute power, it shook the hearts of everyone present. The wide street was instantly destroyed by the shockwave. It was like a landslide. The cracks on the ground only stopped when they reached Duanmu Xiaoman's feet. Who dares to use a high-grade martial technique in Nether City? Everyone who had been pushed back had fear in their eyes as they stared in front of them in astonishment. The man had short hair and bulging muscles that glowed with a snow-white luster. Although he was strong, his skin was extremely pale. His cheekbones were high, and his eyes were like those of a wild beast, releasing a thirst for blood and violence. He lightly tossed the object in his hand, and a few round objects rolled to the feet of the crowd. Immediately, the crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. Those are the heads of the cultivators who were cursing just now. Fresh blood was still flowing out of their orifices. The cultivators' eyes were wide open, but they didn't seem to see what had happened before they died. Duanmu Xiaoman's back was facing the crowd, so she could use her soul to see what had happened behind her. Her beautiful brows furrowed, and a cold light flashed in the corner of her eyes. Looking at the destroyed street, sand and stones flew everywhere, and smoke filled the sky. Many of the onlookers were affected by the shock wave and cried out in pain. Shangguan Xinjua, Long Pasan, and the other palace masters of Heavenly Palace sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the young man in front of them with blood-red eyes. Who is Shangguan Xinjua? Su, he was puzzled. Not good. The Divine Tiger Continent's Divine Tiger Sect's young master is here. A cultivator on the side cried out in pain. Sui couldn't help but frown slightly. So the person who came was the Divine Tiger Sect's young master. No wonder he was so unruly. He was incomparably arrogant, and his unruly face revealed his bloodthirsty and cruel fanaticism. This was the first time Sui felt that someone could be so hot-blooded. This person is very strong, but he's also very annoying. Sui's eyes darkened. The people of Heavenly Palace couldn't help but move closer, and their eyes trembled as they looked directly at Shangguan Xinjua. Shangguan Xinjua, how dare you? Do you think this is your Divine Tiger Sect? How dare you do this in Nether City? Is this how your father taught you? Shangguan Xinjua lazily glanced at Qi Dongjue, and a cold smile appeared on his face as he ignored him. A white wind attribute Yuan Qi trembled in his hand again, and the cold air from the icicles on the ground was swept away, leaving only the bright ice blades. Chapter 1749. Shangguan Xinjua obviously didn't expect the icicle to be so deep. He frowned and laughed loudly. As he laughed, he sized up Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful figure and said softly, Junior Shangguan Xinjua of the Divine Tiger Sect pays his respects to Goddess Duanmu. Shangguan Xinjua? Duanmu Xiaoman turned around, showing off her alluring curves. When Shangguan Xinjua heard Duanmu Xiaoman calling his name, he raised his eyebrows at Qi Dongjue, who was feeling a little awkward. She tidied up her clothes slightly and was about to answer him in what she thought was a valiant and formidable manner. Don't know him. Duanmu Xiaoman faintly floated these words behind her, and with light steps, she walked towards the street. Uffed. The onlookers were surprised at first, but they quickly covered their mouths and tried their best to hold back their laughter. Shangguan Xinjua made such a high-profile entrance and slaughtered everyone, but all he got was Duanmu Xiaoman saying that she didn't know him. Su even suffered internal injuries from holding back his laughter. His eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at Shangguan Shinjua with a mocking gaze. Su, he spread out his soul spirit and probed with his mind. Light flashed in his eyes as Su exclaimed in his heart. Seems like he's in his 30s and is at the 6th level of the Origin Emperor realm. No wonder he has the right to be so arrogant in front of Master. Su, he counted with his fingers and recalled the opponents that he had fought before. Only Nangong Heng, who was in his 30s, had the cultivation of the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm. Even his elder brother, Merciless West, was only at the 3rd level of the Origin Emperor realm during his Great Yin year. It wasn't easy to reach the 6th level of the Origin Emperor realm at such an age. The young talents that he was in contact with were gradually the representatives of the top forces in the various continents. They were indeed stronger than each other. I wonder if that fellow has improved. Su, he suddenly recalled the figure of Xiahong House. His brows furrowed slightly as he slapped his forehead, and his gaze became sharp. Su, he turned his attention back to Shangguan Shinjua, who looked like a little barbaric beast, and wrinkled his nose slightly. 6th level of the Origin Emperor realm. Without relying on the Emperor Sparrow's innate talent and sacred artifact, I can definitely defeat him with the Origin Supreme technique. Su Yi's heart immediately flashed with a trace of disdain, and his dark and deep eyes flashed with contempt. Raising his chin slightly, Su Yi's aura became somewhat dignified. At this moment, Su Yi had already begun to remember the strength of every young expert he had met, as well as the difference between him and his enemies. In this Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, Su Yi wanted to show off to himself and Duanmu Xiaoman. In these bird aristocratic families, I want to see what the hell they are doing. Su Yi smiled slightly. Shangguan Shinjua, who had been doused with cold water from head to toe by Duanmu Xiaoman, was even more furious. All the muscles in his body crackled. A bolt of lightning flashed across his fierce eyes, and the atmosphere in the arena dropped drastically, as if they had fallen into a bloody forest. The experts of the Divine Tiger sect behind him all retreated at the same time, supporting Shangguan Shinjua. Brat, you are so shameless. Do you really think that my demon-subduing sect is a pushover? Palace Lord Duanmu is the person that my demon-subduing sect invited. Qi Dongjue, who was wearing a long robe, was also furious. His scarlet skin was like soldering iron, and an indescribable demonic aura surged out from his body. The incomparably huge shadow of a raging bull behind him twisted casually in the air, and the void rippled instantly. The ground faintly trembled, and Qi Dongjue's loose clothes expanded like a bellows, and the surface area increased by several times. Old man Qi, stop blabbering in front of me. I just caught a woman, and I don't need you to blabber. No one is allowed to snatch the person that my father, Shangguan Juehu, wants. Impudent. Even sect master Shangguan doesn't dare to speak like this in front of me. It's time for me to teach you a lesson on behalf of sect master Shangguan. Dense, fiery red, demonic aura surged out, and Qi Dongjue's robe swelled up, and a pungent smell soared into the sky. Oh, the scarlet flame bull gradually materialized behind him, and Qi Dongjue's old roar reverberated through the air. The entire netherworld street was suddenly distorted by a huge force, and the air currents were turbulent. Not good. Even Old Man Qi's ancient scarlet flame, Ho, has appeared. I'm afraid he's really angry now. Guyue, Long Pasan, and the rest had a heavy look in their eyes. They immediately conjured a soul light barrier, protecting all the disciples of the heavenly command palace. In an instant, a loud explosion rang out, and the ferocious aura of the ancient scarlet flame host spread through the streets, causing all the houses on the street to tremble uncontrollably. Many cultivators with low cultivation beside them rolled on the ground, their ears and hearts trembling. A terrifying energy storm swept out like a hurricane, and the pitch-black stone slabs trembled like an earthquake. You think I'm afraid of you? What is there to be afraid of in the demon-subduing sect? The Divine Tiger sect is not something you can provoke. Die, old ghost. With a wave of his hand, Shangguan Shinjua revealed an incomparably gloomy expression as he shouted. His figure instantly became extremely huge, and his body was tightly wrapped in a ball of white light. At this moment, the skin on his face began to wrinkle, and it was extremely ugly. His eyes sunk into their sockets, and a monstrous aura shot out from him. At the same time, the 4 Divine Tiger Sect experts behind him also released a monstrous battle intent. White demonic aura surged around their bodies, but their auras were far more ferocious than Shangguan Shinjua's. Their hair and beards stood up, and the 5 white-furred divine tigers faced the scarlet flame bowl. The scene was shocking, using violence to curb violence. Because of Duanmu Xiaoman, the demon-subduing sect and the Divine Tiger sect were actually fighting in Netherworld City. When everyone's souls were suppressed to the extreme, their eyes popped out. It was simply unimaginable. One was the young sect master, and the other was a grand elder. A strong sense of shock was stuck in their throats. What was even more embarrassing was that because of the monstrous shock, the crowd was growing larger and larger. The top 3 powers of the continents also came out from their resting stations. The streets that weren't considered wide were already filled with people, and now it was even more packed. Everyone was emptying the streets. The people of Yuqian Palace were even more embarrassed. The space around them rippled, and Gu, Long Pasan, and the rest retreated bit by bit. They kept turning their heads to look at Duanmu Xiaoman, who had already walked away. Damn it, even returning to the Netherworld Branch Palace is so troublesome. Even the usually cultured and refined Luo Wuya started to curse. A domain lord against an primitive emperor and 4 primitive ancestors. The scene is really interesting. Nie Shuangjua looked at the sky, but his heart was filled with resentment. Duanmu Xiaoman tapped her feet lightly, and her snow-white long legs glowed with a dazzling light. All the onlookers spontaneously opened up a path for her. Looking at the Duanmu Xiaoman who was walking away, Su Yi's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He lifted his chin slightly and turned his head slightly to the side. Creak. Xiaoman ignored you guys because her thoughts are all on Duanmu Qingtian, and I will not allow anyone to taint her. Chapter 1750. The wind howled as heaven and earth trembled. Qi Dongjue's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he looked at the insolent Shangguan Shinjua, who had teamed up with the experts behind him to deal with him. Behind him, the ancient crimson fire centipede roared into the sky. Its aura was wrapped in wind and thunder. In an instant, 2 pillars of fire shot out from its eyes towards Shangguan Shinjua like blood-red pythons. When Shangguan Shinjua saw that Qi Dongjue had really attacked, his gaze turned cold as he shouted. The 4 experts behind him continuously changed their hand seals. High in the sky, 2 resplendent rays of light linked with each other. The entire sky began to tremble. Suddenly, countless soul attacks filled the sky. A huge light enveloped the 2 of them, making it difficult to distinguish between them. The monstrous energy that permeated the sky swept through everyone's soul. Bang! In an instant, the entire sky above Nether City exploded. 2 strange rays of light, one white and one red, pierced through the sky and tore through space. The silhouettes separated as soon as they touched each other. Bursts of energy ripples spread out like waves. Qi Dongjue's face darkened as the space around him fluctuated. His figure retreated rapidly, creating a terrifying ravine on the stone floor behind him. Meanwhile, Shangguan Shinjua and the other experts' faces turned red. Shangguan Shinjua's footsteps were slightly shaky as the snow-white armor on his body emitted flowing light. It swelled up high, but instantly collapsed after the Yuan Qi was exhausted. With the soaring commotion and the increasing number of onlookers, the people of Heavenly Palace had already stopped in their tracks. At this moment, a few youths appeared in the crowd. One of them had an outstanding temperament. She wore a light crimson robe, had an oval-shaped face, and bright moon-like eyes. She had a charming charm that made people unable to help but take a few more glances. Long Pas Han and the others, who were standing behind her, circulated their soul pressure and couldn't help but exclaim, "This old man's Yuan domain is really extraordinary." However, what's even more surprising are the 4 Yuan zones of the Divine Tiger sect. Nether City's ranking tournament is imminent. They won't really fight with their lives on the line. However, from the looks of it, the Divine Tiger sect strength in the past 2 years has been quite strong. Shang Wanzhou even gave the Wind Feather Lockhart armor to his son. It seems like he really put in a lot of effort for this ranking tournament. Everyone looked at the armor on Shangguan Shunjua's body, and their gazes darkened. Su Yi rubbed his chin. "It's a powerful treasure, but compared to my demon god battlesuit, it's nothing but trash." "Hey!" Su Yi shouted. His body instantly turned into a ball of flame and rushed in front of the 2 men. His eyes flashed with electric light. "The 2 of you, if you want to fight, go somewhere else. Can you make way for my heavenly command palace?" Su Yi said calmly. The primordial origin supreme technique quietly circulated. In front of a Yuan domain expert, a strange power silently spread out. Su Yi did not dare to be careless. Su Yi's ears were filled with the sound of wind and thunder, and the sound of heavy breathing instantly fluctuated in his mind. Su Yi casually twisted his neck, as if nothing had happened. Qi Dongjue and Shangguan Xinjue turned their heads at the same time. Their gazes wandered up and down Su Yi's body. Their expressions were extremely ugly. "Who are you? This has nothing to do with you. Get lost." Shangguan Xinjue's eyes were cold, and his battle intent was soaring. He licked his dry lips and wanted to fight another round with Qi Dongjue. Qi Dongjue's eyes were also red. Seeing that Su Yi was standing up for the Heavenly Command Palace, he knew that it had something to do with the Heavenly Command Palace. "Kid, this has nothing to do with you. Today, Palace Master Duanmu must return to the palace with me. Whoever dares to stop me will have to take a palm strike from me." Su Yi snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he said, "Then it has even more to do with me." Swish! Everyone immediately looked at Su Yi. The 2 of them had stopped fighting. Duanmu Xiaoman heard Su Yi's voice and turned her head. Her eyes were filled with a strange light. "Who do you think you are? I'm just a woman. Who are you to interfere?" Shangguan Xinjue's eyes were filled with hatred and disdain as he glared at Su Yi. His arm shook, and a white, misty claw mark shot toward Su Yi. The claw mark shot through the air, creating a sonic boom as it tore through the air. It carried an incomparably majestic aura that was extremely hidden. Boom! "You're courting death." Su Yi wasn't in a hurry. The moment his eyes opened, he circulated the white flood dragon divine power and the origin supreme art at the same time. Su Yi's palm bent slightly. Instantly, a blazing energy accompanied by a soul attack spread out in the air. It instantly turned into a huge flaming palm and slammed heavily onto Shangguan Xinjue's body. Boom! Boom! Su Yi has made his move. Guyue's eyes moved slightly. Duanmu Xiaoman, who was standing at the back, gradually moved forward and stood side by side with Guyue. Guyue couldn't help but sigh. Sigh. Only Su Yi can make the Duanmu Xiaoman worry. Duanmu Xiaoman didn't look worried at all as she watched Su Yi and Shangguan Xinjue clash. Her sexy red lips parted slightly, as if she hoped that Su Yi would end the battle quickly. In an instant, the claw mark and the palm mark shot out with a whistling sound. Boom! A series of sonic booms rang out as a huge bolt of lightning flashed past. Shangguan Xinjue took 3 steps back, while Su Yi took 1 step back. Coupled with the battle with Qi Dongjue just now, Shangguan Xinjue's face instantly paled. His gloomy face looked even more dispirited. A thin line of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Shangguan Xinjue was incomparably gloomy as he stared at Su Yi with eyes full of anger. All the spectators behind him sucked in a breath of cold air. How could a random person from the Heavenly Palace defeat Shangguan Xinjue? Who was this person? How could he be so strong? Shock and astonishment filled everyone's hearts. At this moment, a gentle girl's voice came from the crowd. Her voice was thin and high, and it was obvious that she had a sunny personality. That person looks like Su Yi. Senior sister, look. A few of the senior and junior brothers beside the girl opened their eyes wide and rushed into the crowd to take a closer look. Brat, you've got guts. Shangguan Xinjua's eyes were filled with hatred as he raised his eyebrows. It was obvious that he had lost his fighting spirit. Su Yi's strength had clearly exceeded Shangguan Xinjua's imagination. Su Yi crossed his arms and said with a blade of grass in his mouth, he didn't feel anything at all. Why do you care who I am? You're just relying on the Divine Tiger sect to flaunt your strength here. I'm afraid that you can't even touch Palace Master Duanmu's heel by yourself. Su Yi slanted his smile and shot a mocking gaze at Shangguan Xinjua. Brat, don't be so arrogant. Even if you're from the Heavenly Palace, it's none of your business. The person that my clan master wants to invite must be here today. The expert from the Divine Tiger sect said ruthlessly. That depends on whether you have the ability or not. You keep saying that you want to capture people, but you two sects have the nerve to do so. My palace master hasn't even said anything yet. A dog biting another dog. What a mouthful of fur. A trace of coldness flashed in Su Yi's eyes as the blazing aura spread out once again. At this moment, many experts from the demon-subduing sect had already arrived behind Qi Dongjue. Chapter 1751. Even if Su Yi's words were reasonable, the sect's reputation would be tarnished. Qi Dongjue looked at Su Yi and his face darkened. Brat, who are you? What right do you have to meddle in our affairs? Qi Dongjue said fiercely. A cold figure suddenly appeared behind them, and a huge pressure came crashing down on them. Knowing how powerful it was, the demon-subduing sect and Divine Tiger sect retreated at the same time. Of course, he can meddle in our affairs. At this moment, a terrifying wind rippled around Duanmu Xiaoman, and the soul pressure of all the experts present was extinguished like a flame. Qi Dongjue and the rest of the Divine Tiger sect looked dispirited as they stared at Duanmu Xiaoman. Her pressure was so great that it made their legs tremble. Their souls were shaken, and they wanted to prostrate themselves. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were filled with pity. She looked at Su Yi, and her eyes were full of emotion. She spoke to Su Yi with a gentle voice that she had never used before. Are you all right? As soon as she said that, everyone's jaws dropped to the ground. Countless male cultivators looked at Su Yi with envy and jealousy. They wanted nothing more than to kill him. Qi Dongjue, who had a head full of white hair, was among them. He was so jealous that he went crazy. Fairy Qingshun, who had been incomparably cold just a moment ago, was actually so gentle and caring towards this unknown young man. Everyone from the Heavenly Palace was terrified. Only Gu Yu seemed to have known this all along and revealed an imperceptible, mysterious smile. Good boy. Long Pasan put his fat palms together. He couldn't imagine such a scene happening in front of him. Being addressed by Duanmu Xiaoman like this, Su Yi's heart and soul were shaken. His mood instantly improved, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he looked at Duanmu Xiaoman's beautiful face. When the two of them were alone, Duanmu Xiaoman would occasionally mention it. As if to demonstrate his power, Su Yi took a step forward. It's nothing. It's just that these people keep saying that they want to capture you. They really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I can't stand it. Su Yi's eyes flashed with killing intent. Shangguan Xinjua was also shocked by Duanmu Xiaoman's shocking pressure. He had never felt such pressure from his father before. He immediately regretted his insolence. The experts of the Divine Tiger sect whispered a few words into Shangguan Xinjua's ears. Shangguan Xinjua replied, Kid, you've got guts. Since Palace Master Duanmu isn't free, sure, will return and report to father. Shangguan Xinjua did not wait for a reply and turned to leave. Duanmu Xiaoman's eyes were cold. She did not put him in her eyes at all and let him go. Wait! A trace of poison dragon bloodline in Su Yi's body began to tremble as he instantly spoke in a low voice. Shangguan Xinjua was startled. He looked at Su Yi and asked, What is it? Don't let me see you again, and don't let me hear you having any ideas about the palace master. Woman is not something you can address her as. Su Yi had heard everything that Shangwan Xinjua had said. At this moment, he raised his head. His pitch-black eyes flashed with a murderous intent that pierced into one's soul. Compared to Shangwan Xinjua's ferocious killing intent, Su Yi's killing intent was filled with boundless blood qi, causing the already cold atmosphere to freeze. Ha ha ha, I'll be waiting. Shangwan Xinjua laughed dryly. His eyes flickered, and it was obvious that his soul was trembling. He took another look at Duanmu Xiaoman and the rest before fleeing in panic. Sunset glow, is it? One day, I'll let you have a taste of sunset glow. Looking at Shangwan Xinjua's back, Su Yi had already begun to plan. After the few of them left, Su Yi turned to look at Qi Dongjue, who was about to go crazy with jealousy. My master has already said that he won't go to the demon-subduing sect. If you continue to be so aggressive, our Yuqian palace is not to be trifled with. Duanmu Xiaoman's moon robes fluttered, and ice crystals surrounded her body like fairies. She also looked at Qi Dongjue with a cold gaze. It was obvious that Su Yi's words were Duanmu Xiaoman's. Duanmu Xiaoman supported this devilish man unconditionally. Huff! Suppressing his emotions, Qi Dongjue's eyes twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, "Very good. What's your name?" Su. Su Yi smiled and opened his hands. He tilted his head slightly towards Duanmu Xiaoman. Goodbye. Qi Dongjue didn't even look at Duanmu Xiaoman one last time. He looked around and left angrily. Su Yi. The crowd began to whisper. The spectators today were all experts from the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. Those who had heard of Su Yi's name began to spread Su Yi's deeds. After the powerhouses left, the streets that were packed with people instantly became clamorous. Countless gazes fell on the beautiful Duanmu Xiaoman and the devilish Su Yi. One white and one green, they were like a pair of immortals. One was devilishly charming and wild, while the other was peerlessly beautiful. They were extremely harmonious. A young master should be in a painting, while a fairy should be in a painting. Damn it, why is Palace Lord Duanmu so concerned about a brat who's still wet behind the ears? From the looks of it, he's not even 20 years old. That's not right. I think I've heard of his name before. Was it him in the Central Continent and Chaos region? Su Yi's strange stories instantly became the topic of discussion. As they spoke, they looked at the people from Yuqian Palace. Duanmu Xiaoman obviously didn't like the noise. She frowned and said to Su Yi, "Let's go." To be able to call him so intimately in front of so many people, Su Yi was naturally touched and happy. The two of them turned around. Su Yi and Duanmu Xiaoman both said a word of thanks through Yuan Qi transmission at the same time. Looking into each other's eyes, they looked at each other and smiled. "What are you thanking me for?" The two of them said at the same time. Ha ha ha. Su Yi laughed. As he walked towards the shocked people from Yuqian Palace, Su Yi smiled and moved closer to Duanmu Xiaoman. He said, "If you're unwilling, I'll bear it for you." Su Yi knew that Duanmu Xiaoman really didn't want to waste her breath on these people. Being aloof was just Duanmu Xiaoman's persistence. The closer he got to Duanmu Xiaoman, the more he could feel her body trembling slightly in her fiery temperature. Only Su Yi knew what kind of fiery heart this fairy in front of him had, and the gentleness and loneliness that she didn't tell anyone. "I won't let you get hurt. No one is allowed to do it." Pausing for a moment, Duanmu Xiaoman said in an extremely soft voice, "Okay, I'll protect you." Su Yi laughed. The two of them walked back to Yuqian Palace's group. Gu Yue smiled and said, "Wuya, lead the way." Luo Wuya pulled back his mind and laughed loudly. He was a little embarrassed. Let's go. Let's go. Otherwise, Immortal Sword Sect and Limitless Sect will start laughing at us." After saying that, Su Yi followed Luo Wuya's gaze and fixed it on the distant sky and the bustling crowd. There were a few hidden absolute powers. Shrugging his shoulders, Su Yi knew that at this time, no one would give up the opportunity to probe the strength of others. If it wasn't for the fact that the matter had blown up and there were more people, the top powers wouldn't have come out. Chapter 1752. After that, the people of the Imperial Celestial Palace followed Luo Wuya through several streets. After several turns, they finally arrived at a majestic building. The pillars were carved and painted, looking quite extraordinary. The unique layout and patterns of Yuqian Palace made it obvious that this was the Yuzhou branch of Yuqian Palace. It was just that the color scheme was dark purple. Upon closer inspection, the Yutian branch was easily recognizable in the entire Nether City. "Palace Master, please." Luo Wuya stood in front of the door and said respectfully. Unlike other sects, Yutian Palace would never stay in the inn arranged by demon-subduing sect, because Yutian Palace had branches everywhere they went. Like Lingbao sect, they had branches all over the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. "Palace Master, I still have matters to attend to, so I won't be going in." Su Yi stood behind them and said. Duanmu Xiao Man asked softly with a questioning look, "Where are you going?" Su Yi shrugged and smiled. "The Bawang sect hasn't met up yet. I have to find them before the ranking competition." Luo Wuya and the other elders didn't know how to respond to Su Yi's decision. They were a bit reluctant. They all looked at Duanmu Xiaoman. "Go," Duanmu Xiaoman said softly. Her eyes were filled with concern as she raised her eyebrows slightly, as if telling Su Yi to be careful. After a moment of silence, Su Yi bid farewell and parted ways with the Yuqian Palace group. He could see Long Pasan and the other elders standing in the distance. They still had many questions to ask him, and their hearts were open to gossip. "Phew, fortunately, I left first. Otherwise, Pasan Palace Master and the others would keep asking me questions." Su Yi smiled in his heart, as if he had been released from a burden. When he returned to the street, the crowd had already retreated, but the auras of experts were still everywhere. Just as he was about to retract his aura and look around vigilantly, someone patted his shoulder heavily. "Pa!" Su Yi raised his hand and shot out a stream of yuan qi. Instantly, a muffled sound rang out in the air. Turning his head around, Su Yi saw his face clearly. He cried out in surprise, "Big brother, Sister Han." Su Yi was overjoyed. It was Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy. "Yes, kid, your reaction is getting faster and faster. Looks like you've improved a lot recently," Merciless West said with a look of admiration. Her eyes were slightly red, and it was obvious that she had just drunk a few more mouthfuls. "Brat, after a long time, you're no longer friendly when you see me." Impermanence Fairy narrowed her eyes and pouted slightly. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her plain palace makeup made her look extremely gentle and dignified. Su Yi hurried forward and grabbed Impermanence Fairy's arm. Then he said to Merciless West enthusiastically, "Big brother, when did you guys arrive?" "I didn't even notice it. We arrived 2 days ago." "You brat, you're too arrogant. You just arrived and caused such a big commotion." Merciless West frowned slightly. She opened her wine gourd and took a sip of the strong wine. She felt refreshed. Su Yi scratched the back of his head and said helplessly, "You can't blame me for this." Impermanence Fairy immediately moved closer and said mysteriously, "Both of us saw it just now. It's not your fault. It's Duanmu Xiaoman's fault." After saying that, she threw a flirtatious look at Su Yi. Su Yi understood the meaning of it himself. It turned out that the charming scene in front of everyone had been seen by his big brother. Su Yi felt a little embarrassed and smiled embarrassedly. Merciless West looked at Su Yi from the corner of her eyes and said lazily, "Humph, you brat. Are you going to train or to pick up girls? You're really brave. Who is Duanmu Xiaoman? You actually—" Merciless West did not finish her sentence. Su Yi put his hands behind his back and smiled. "Big brother, what are you trying to say?" Merciless West did not say anything. She glanced at Impermanence Fairy and secretly gave Su Yi a thumbs up. The two brothers laughed. They had not seen each other for a long time, and the atmosphere was very warm. Su Yi was happy from the bottom of his heart. The two of them drank wine and chatted happily. Su Yi told Merciless West about what had happened in the past few days. "You brat, so many things have happened in just 1 month." Merciless West's bloodshot eyes widened slightly. Her eyes were full of praise for Su Yi. She was a little tipsy and hit Su Yi's shoulder heavily. Su Yi touched his shoulder, and his face twitched slightly. He said in a deep voice, "What about the people from the Bawang sect and the Green Emperor? Are they okay? How many people from the Bawang sect came this time?" Impermanence Fairy stood quietly at the side and gently tapped her finger on her arm. She was quiet and peaceful. Suddenly, her beautiful eyes glanced and her beautiful eyebrows furrowed. "What's wrong?" Merciless West saw the change and looked at Impermanence Fairy. Impermanence Fairy gestured for her to be quiet. Then she looked at Merciless West and Su Yi and whispered, "Let's go back to the inn and talk. There are too many people around." The three of them nodded at the same time. The Yuan Chi whirlpool under their feet suddenly rose, and the strong waves created ripples on the street. Su Yi's eyes darkened, and he glanced back fiercely. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and he rushed to the neighboring street with Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy. "Did you see who it is?" Su Yi ran without stopping, and his voice traveled into Impermanence Fairy's ears. "Their cultivation is not high, and their aura is hidden very clumsily," Impermanence Fairy said faintly. Frowning slightly, Su Yi continued to search for the aura behind him. Perhaps because he was too fast, the few people behind him could not catch up. With such a low cultivation level, who would dare to follow someone? Who would be so stupid? In the blink of an eye, he followed Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy to a more remote inn. As soon as he entered the inn, a towering demonic aura filled Su Yi's nose. The familiar feeling made Su Yi feel as if he was in the Bawang sect of the Chaos Domain. Every inn here was an independent courtyard, built by the demon subduing sect for the various invited forces. They were isolated from each other and were extremely safe. The Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twins are here. Su Yi's eyes lit up. The faint smell in the air was very familiar. Whoosh! A terrifying gust of wind swept out from the depths of the courtyard. In an instant, two figures of light, one green, one black, and one white, rushed out like a storm. The aura in the air suddenly became chaotic. It was obvious that they were extremely strong demon experts. The intense demonic aura was accompanied by a faint dragon's roar. The light took the opportunity to envelop Su Yi, and he instantly turned into a human. His aura was long, and he faintly had the aura of a demon sex leader. He looked at the three people with surprise. One of them was dressed in a long green robe. He had an elegant temperament, and his long, narrow eyes shone with an extremely demonic light. The other two were a man dressed in a white embroidered robe, and the woman beside him was tall. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.